Chapter 965 Soul Emperor Pavilion, Dream Palace. Yao Ji sat on the big white jade bed. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged next to her, his eyes closed. She quietly stood up, holding a white jade talisman in her hand. Her willow leaf-like eyebrows were slightly curled, her face a little sad. Lord Devour had sent her a message to tell Yao Ji what had happened outside. He also asked her to tell everything to Yi Qinghan. Yao Ji didn't know who Viper and Dragon were, who were fireworks. However, Lord Devour's message had made it clear that these people had a close relationship with Yi Qinghan. Yao Ji couldn't figure out why Lord Devour wanted her to tell Yi Qinghan everything if they were related to him. Moreover, if Yi Qinghan wanted to go out, he didn't want to stop him. Let him go out? What did Lord Devour want? Could it be that he wanted Yi Qinghan to die? Was she out of her mind? Didn't she know that Yi Qinghan had a big chance to take revenge for the Soul Emperor? Yao Ji had sent a message to Lord Devour, but Lord Devour didn't explain anything. Yao Ji knew that Lord Devour was always cold. After the Soul Emperor died, he was even colder. Thus, she didn't ask more. She just frowned and contemplated. However, she couldn't figure it out after 1 month. And, as Yi Qinghan was in seclusion, she didn't want to wake him up until the jade talisman on Yi Qinghan's waist vibrated. Yao Ji took it off and used her soul consciousness to check. She knew that she had to wake Yi Qinghan up. The people outside were about to take action. She didn't want Yi Qinghan to hate her. Thus, she woke up Yi Qinghan. After Yi Qinghan woke up, he looked at Yao Ji with a stern face. She had interrupted his seclusion. He knew something was wrong. He got up and asked, "What's going on?" The enchantress handed Yi Qinghan's messaging jade talisman to him and said, "Take a look." Yi Qinghan took it and scanned it with his divine sense. Suddenly, his complexion changed. His eyes were filled with anger, and his killing intent soared. There was a sentence in the message. "Yi Qinghan, I'm Evil Moon. Please come out of the island for a chat." Of course, Evil Moon was Venerable Evil Moon, but how could Venerable Evil Moon send a message to him? This was a big problem. Yi Qinghan's communication jade talisman was of the highest grade. Only Yi Qinghan's communication jade talisman could send messages. In other words, only Yi Qinghan's communication jade talisman could reach Yi Qinghan. Everyone who could make Yi Qinghan send a messenger jade talisman to him must have a close relationship with him. Venerable Moonchaser was attacked by the devils on his way back to the Misty continent. Evil Moon took advantage of the chaos and captured Fireworks, Viper, and Dragon. As the enchantress said this, Yi Qinghan's face darkened again. The enchantress also knew that these people had a close relationship with him. She hurriedly added, "Diawu sent me a message. He said that if you want to go out, you can go out." Evil Moon. When Yi Qinghan heard the first part, he gritted his teeth and growled. He had an impulse to go out immediately. However, when he heard the second part, his body stopped abruptly. He stood in the hall with his hands clenched into fists. His veins bulged. Finally, he closed his eyes and lifted his head. He became silent, and the murderous aura on his body gradually faded. Lord Devour wanted him to go out. Although Lord Devour was cold and ruthless, she wouldn't send him to his death, right? Such an unusual sentence made Yi Qinghan's raging heart calm down. He began to think carefully. Wind Emperor of Mount Wu and the others had died because of his carelessness. Yi Qinghan's two souls started to move at high speed. After thinking for half a day, he opened his eyes. However, his eyes were completely calm, as if nothing had happened. He said to the enchantress, "The people outside don't know if the transmission barrier of the Soul Emperor Pavilion is open or not, right?" "Of course not." The enchantress nodded affirmatively. Yi Qinghan exhaled in relief. If they didn't know if the transmission barrier was open or not, then they wouldn't know if Yi Qinghan had received the message. Then, they wouldn't dare to kill Fireworks and the others. They wanted to kill him. If Fireworks and the others died easily, then how could they lure him out? Yi Qinghan figured out the crux of the matter. Throwing the jade talisman to the enchantress, he said calmly, "You help me look after the jade talisman. No matter what they say, just ignore it. But if they give me a deadline, wake me up immediately." Then, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground. He didn't care about anything else and just started to cultivate in seclusion. The enchantress blinked, feeling a little confused. Lord Devour had said something strange, and Yi Qinghan was behaving strangely. However, since Yi Qinghan had asked her to do so, she couldn't say anything else. She could only sit on the white jade ship, looking at Yi Qinghan with a little worry. Outside the Soul Emperor Island, inside a massive dragon boat. The dragon boat was big, but only a few people were standing. Li Fei was sitting alone, while the others were standing and looking at him with respect and admiration. At the same time, their eyes glanced at a warrior wearing the war god robe, standing on the left side of Li Fei. Evil Moon, you've done well this time. The family head has sent a message. After it's done, we'll bring you back to the Supreme Island and reward you handsomely. Li Fei was full of smiles as he looked at the warrior in the war god robe, looking very satisfied. Of course, he was most satisfied with his own wisdom. Thank you, Lord. Evil Moon doesn't dare to take credit. Yi Qinghan and I also have a deep grudge. My disciple was killed by Yi Qinghan in the Soul Emperor Pavilion. If I don't kill him, I'm not a man. Supremacy. Evil Moon bowed slightly. Although his words were calm, it was easy to feel the coldness in his words. After leaving the Misty Continent for so many years, Evil Moon's life wasn't good. He lived like a prince, giving orders and showing off the benefits of power. It was hard for him to live in seclusion. When he left the Flame Dragon City, Tu Xie followed him without a second thought. He treated Tu Xie like his own son. After Tu Xie's soul jade slip exploded, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He wanted revenge, and he needed to be high and mighty. Joining the Star Sea was the best choice, but if he wanted to be accepted by the Star Sea, he had to prove his loyalty. So he made his move. Laming was a spy, and he sent a message to Li Fei about their route. Li Fei lent Tu Xie a treasure that could make the space vibrate intensely. Evil Moon had been guarding there for a long time. He didn't expect it to be so easy. Li Fei was very satisfied with this plan. The biggest advantage of this plan was that Evil Moon was once Misty Monarch's man. Your people are fighting, and the Star Sea didn't do anything. Even if Misty Monarch guessed that I was the mastermind, without evidence, it wouldn't be good for you to throw your temper, right? Did Yi Qinghan reply? Li Fei waved his hand and asked a key question. He knew Yi Qinghan's personality very well. If Yi Qinghan knew, he would definitely rush out. Fireworks was his woman, and Viper War God had helped him before. Of course, they could have captured Xiao He, but Li Fei and Evil Moon weren't fools. If they captured Xiao He, wouldn't that force Lord Devour to make a move? My lord, not yet. Evil Moon's attitude was very low as he replied respectfully. Li Fei stood up and smiled coldly. Keep sending him messages. If he doesn't come out after a year, kill someone and send their head to Soul Emperor Island. Then, send him a message. If he doesn't come out after 3 years, strip fireworks and hang her on the dragon boat. Let's see if he can still be a grandson then. Chapter 966. No matter what message Evil Moon sent, the enchantress acted like she didn't see it. Yi Qinghan was cultivating in seclusion. Evil Moon and Li Fei were a little anxious. The Yin-Fiend stream in the ethereal continent was in chaos. Many forces knew about it. The Star Sea was clear, and Lord Devour was still in the Soul Devourer City. If they didn't lure Yi Qinghan out to kill him, when would they do it? Li Fei knew that the ethereal sovereign wouldn't show up. After all, he couldn't turn the Star Sea upside down for Evil Moon. Of course, if there was a suitable chance, the ethereal sovereign would kill Evil Moon with one palm. As for why Lord Devour didn't take action, it was even more suspicious. It seemed like the rumors about Lord Devour being cold-blooded was true. After all, Xiao He was Lord Devour's relative. Even so, Li Fei and Evil Moon didn't want to drag this out for too long. If it was too long, something bad would happen. Thus, 1 year later, Li Fei didn't hesitate, asking Evil Moon to send a message to Yi Qinghan through the Jade Talisman. If Yi Qinghan didn't come out in 3 days, he would kill a war god dragon. The enchantress looked at the message and became hesitant. Yi Qinghan said to wake him up if there was such a message. However, the enchantress didn't want to wake up Yi Qinghan. After hesitating for a while, the enchantress chose to send a message to Lord Devour. Lord Devour's reply was fast. He didn't want to wake up Yi Qinghan, but to send a message to Evil Moon. The enchantress pondered for a while, looking at Yi Qinghan sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. Eventually, she picked up the jade talisman to send a message. As soon as the enchantress sent the message, Evil Moon was shaken. He strode to the front hall of the dragon boat, asking to see Li Fei. "You got a reply?" Li Fei asked happily when he saw Evil Moon's appearance. "Yes, Lord." Evil Moon bowed, his face beaming as if he had won a big battle. Of course, with his shrewdness, he wouldn't show his emotions. However, he had just joined them, so he needed to pretend sometimes. Li Fei anxiously asked, "What do you mean?" Xie said somewhat embarrassedly. "Yi Qinghan sent a message saying that he will come out within 3 years. If he doesn't come out after 3 years, then we'll kill those 3. If we still want to kill one person a year, we can kill those 3 right now. He definitely won't come out." "Humph! How dare you negotiate with me?" Li Fei snorted out 2 puffs of white air from his nostrils. His eyes turned as he began to ponder over the meaning of Yi Qinghan's message. But what Li Fei couldn't figure out was, since Yi Qinghan had agreed to come out, why did he have to wait 3 years? What kind of tricks could he have played in these 3 years? Could it be that he was cultivating or refining treasures? Cultivating was impossible. His nomological laws had yet to reach the God the Arch Realm, and his soul had only just stepped into the God the Arch Realm. What could he achieve in a few years? That's right. The Soul Emperor had a heaven-defying supreme treasure. In the past, he had relied on this treasure to suppress a venerable with the strength of a 7th-grade war god. Could it be that Yi Qinghan was refining this treasure? Li Fei and Evil Moon looked at each other and found that they had the same guess. It was impossible for Yi Qinghan to wait for help, because the Misty Sovereign couldn't leave the Misty Continent within 3 years. After all, the 2 riots of their continent's baleful stream were too close. No one knew when the next one would be. How big would it be? Therefore, the Misty Sovereign wouldn't leave the Misty Continent for the next 20 years. Since Devour hadn't moved yet, he wouldn't move in the future either. Moreover, Lord Devour was a warrior who had just entered the 9th grade. He couldn't go against the Star Sovereign for Yi Qinghan. Therefore, the 2 of them concluded that Yi Qinghan was refining the Soul Emperor's treasure, hoping that he could use it to suppress all the venerables in the Star Sea and rescue the 3 people. The 2 of them looked at each other again and saw the joy in each other's eyes. What they were most afraid of was that Yi Qinghan wouldn't come out. As long as Yi Qinghan came out, there would be no suspense. The Soul Emperor's treasure could suppress a venerable, but that was in a one-on-one situation. There were more than 30 venerables outside. Yi Qinghan thought himself clever. He was seeking his own death. Sent a message to him. "If he doesn't come out in 2 years, I will execute the 3 of them together. There are no conditions to negotiate. This is my bottom line." Li Fei's eyes narrowed slightly as a cold smile appeared on his lips. In fact, 3 to 5 years wasn't a big deal. The most important thing was that Yi Qinghan had to come out. Of course, he still had to show his attitude. Otherwise, if Yi Qinghan came out in 3 years, he would be playing the zither again. After Supremacy Evil Moon sent out the message, Li Fei waved his hand and signaled him to leave. It was no longer important how Yi Qinghan replied. Since Yi Qinghan had agreed, then he would definitely come out. He stood up and flipped his hand. A black rhombus-shaped gemstone-like treasure appeared in his hand. This gemstone emitted a translucent white light that radiated in all directions like ripples. Looking at the treasure in his hand, Li Fei laughed sinisterly. "Hee, a heaven-defying treasure? With this spatial oscillation divine artifact, your invisibility technique can't be used at all. So, what if you refine it? Facing dozens of venerables head-on. Even the number 1 venerable's family head wouldn't dare, right?" This treasure was given to him by Li Kong. Evil Moon relied on this treasure in combination with some small arrays to cause spatial oscillations. Finally, he lured out the devils and succeeded in his sneak attack. Back then, Li Tian also brought a treasure like this when he entered the Soul Emperor Pavilion, but it was a small-scale one. Such a treasure wasn't very useful if it was used to chase down a person, but it was very useful when it was used to surround and capture. Therefore, Li Fei was extremely confident. The laughter in the front hall of the dragon boat became louder and louder. In fact, Yi Qinghan didn't even see what that treasure looked like. His confidence came from eternal space. Yao Ji and Lord Devour's confidence also came from this legendary mystery, even though it sounded unbelievable. With just a high-level mystery, he could save people from dozens of venerables and billions of star army, and then escape? However, the three of them could only place their hopes on this mystery, because a mystery that could produce a heaven and earth anomaly at the entry level couldn't be ordinary. Moreover, Lord Devour and Yao Ji had no other choice. If this mystery was successfully fused, and Yi Qinghan still didn't have a chance to save people, then Fireworks and the other two could only die. This was something that Yao Ji and Lord Devour had secretly agreed on. If it came to the last moment, Yao Ji could only lock Yi Qinghan up. She couldn't just watch him die in front of her. This eternal space is really difficult to fuse. Space freeze, space lock, space shake, and space ripple must be released at the same time. Moreover, they must have a track, direction, and angle. They have to fuse, connect, and resonate with each other. It's so complicated. I've fused it for almost 3 years, but I've just reached the entry level. And it's under such an abnormal cultivating speed. If it were someone else, it would take him hundreds of years to fuse it. It's not right. People don't have 2 souls, so they can't fuse it successfully. At this moment, Yi Qinghan hated that his brain couldn't be the most advanced computer in his previous life. This eternal space was too hard to fuse. If he made a small mistake, he would have to start all over again. The level of complexity was comparable to that of a high-level restriction. At this moment, Yi Qinghan finally knew why no one could fuse this mystery successfully. His 2 souls had almost fused until his soul was in chaos and collapsed. If he had only 1 soul, even if he could find the right direction, he would go crazy sooner or later. Until now, he hadn't found any side effects of this soul mutation. Quite the contrary, it had brought him endless benefits. At least, if it weren't his soul mutation, he would never be able to fuse clothes, yet skyline, and eternal space. Chapter 967. The rooftop of the soul-devouring city master's mansion. A jet-black little beast directly rushed out from the entrance of the rooftop. Its speed was very fast, and it didn't slow down after entering the rooftop. It directly flew to the crystal square table, grabbed the spirit fruit on the table, and gnawed on it. It was not polite at all. Lord Devour, who was sitting on a chair reading a book, wasn't angry at all. Quite the contrary, he smiled affectionately at Xiaohei. "What's wrong, Xiaohei? Who provoked you? Tell Auntie. I'll help you vent your anger." Xiaohei rolled his eyes, getting angrier. "Annie, you said that you would transform me. Why haven't you done it after 1.5 years? How long do I have to wait? This soul-devouring city is so boring." "Huh? Are you worried about your big brother? Or do you want to transform and go to Leaping Spring City to propose marriage?" Lord Devour smiled leisurely. He could see through Xiaohei's thoughts at first glance. When Li Shui was in the soul-devouring city, Xiaohei's mood was normal. But now he was getting more and more irritable. He smiled faintly and continued. "Originally, I didn't think your soul would reach the God-Arch realm so quickly, so I didn't prepare any items. Now, I've already sent people to look for them, and they're almost done. There's only 1 treasure left. Once I buy this treasure, I'll immediately activate the secret technique to transform you." "What treasure? Why does it take so long? Even if it's the westernmost southern mountain continent, it should be here by now, right?" Xiaohei blinked his eyes skeptically. Lord Devour didn't lack divine stones. Even if he had visited all 6 continents of the divine world through the teleportation formation, it would take him at most half a year. Lord Devour smiled and said, "This treasure is called the soul-transforming grass, one of the most important herbs for you to transform. Xiaohei, don't think that the divine world only consists of the 6 continents and the star sea. There are many places in the divine world that you haven't heard of. Not only you, but many palace masters don't know about them. What? There are many places in the divine world that even the palace masters don't know about? Annie, what do you mean? Are there many continents in the divine world? Xiao He cried out in surprise when he heard this. If these words were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge earthquake in the god realm. The other continents might not have it, but the immortal world had a lot of secret realms. In other words, it was a large parallel space. These secret realms were connected to the immortal world. Of course, ordinary people would not be able to find such an entrance. Without reaching the strength of a venerable, they would not be able to enter. Take the hidden monarch, for example. Many people in the immortal realm knew of his existence, but very few people knew that he actually lived in a secret realm. And the soul transformation grass that you need to transform is also in a secret realm. Lord Devour explained to Xiao He gently and impatiently. If other people saw this, they would be astounded. Since when did the cold-blooded and heartless Lord Devour become so gentle and talkative? Of course, in the entire god world, only Xiao He could make Lord Devour so gentle and kind. Arcane realm? Annie, is it fun in the mystic realm? Who lives there? Xiao He's curiosity was piqued. He blinked his big eyes and asked. Lord Devour looked at Xiao He and recalled the soul-devouring beast that looked exactly like Xiao He many years ago. However, the soul-devouring beast's eyes were shining with intelligence and confidence. A gleam of reminiscence flashed in her eyes, as if she was recalling the days when she and the Soul Emperor went to explore the great secret realms. Her mouth curved into a sweet smile, which made her face, which wasn't really beautiful, extremely beautiful. After a while, she said, "It's fun in the mystic realms. There are many interesting races and some secret realms have many venerable experts. Moreover, many races have special abilities. There are many treasures that the god realm doesn't have. Of course, it's dangerous. When I traveled with your father in the god realm, we went to many secret realms. It was the happiest time of my life." Father, Xiao He shivered. He hadn't asked Lord Devour about his parents because he was scared. At this moment, when Lord Devour mentioned them, and from his tone, it sounded like his father was dead. Xiao He was shaken. Lord Devour put on a serious face and said, "Xiao He, after you transform, I will tell you everything about your parents. Your father told me to tell you this. Anyway, I can tell you one thing. Your father is the greatest man in this world. No one else." "Yeah, Annie, I want to go to Flame Dragon City to play. When the soul-transforming grass is delivered, send me a message." Xiao He kept silent for a while, and then lowered his voice. His eyes darted around as if his father's shadow was everywhere in this city, and he didn't dare to look at him. Instinctively, he wanted to run away. "Go. You can go anywhere you want as long as you don't get out of the Misty Continent. If you get out of the Misty Continent, I will catch you immediately." Lord Devour nodded. He didn't refuse, but his voice was firm and didn't allow any doubt. Xiao He didn't want to bring the guards that Lord Devour had arranged. However, Madame Jill wanted to accompany Xiao He to travel around. Xiao He didn't refuse. Xiao He knew that Lord Devour had asked Madame Jill to monitor him. When the two of them appeared in Flame Dragon City, Xiao He was a little surprised. This was because Flame Dragon City had become even bigger, and the various buildings had become even more majestic than before. The city was bustling with people. Although the population wasn't as big as before, it was gradually regaining its prosperity. Apparently, Lord Devour had spent a lot of money and effort. Not long after Xiao He appeared, two silhouettes dashed toward him. One of them was wearing a full set of black armor, with a stocky back and a wolf-like waist. His aura was overbearing, and the two small black horns on his head showed his identity. He was Lei Jun. The other one had long golden hair on his face and exposed skin. If he wasn't the Monster King, who could he be? "Greetings, Madame Jill. Xiao He, welcome home." Lei Jun clasped his fists with a faint smile on his face. However, the melancholy in his eyebrows couldn't be concealed. The Monster King nodded indifferently and didn't say anything. "Hello, Uncle Lei Jun. Let's talk inside." Regarding Lei Jun, Xiao He and Yi Qing'an both called him the same. Madame Jiao also nodded to greet him. Lei Jun nodded and took the lead to fly into the city Lord Palace. Xiao He, what did Lord Devour say? Firework. As soon as they entered the city Lord Palace and sat down, Lei Jun asked anxiously. He and Lei Kuang had gone to ask Lord Devour and the Misty Sovereign, but Lord Devour didn't give them a definite answer. The Misty Sovereign didn't even want to see them. Now that Xiao He was here, of course, he asked anxiously. Xiao He frowned. He also had deep feelings for Firework. They had spent a long time together in the baleful Yin stream. He even treated her as his boss's wife, because he could see Firework's deep love for Yi Qing'an. Now that Firework was caught, she might die. He was also heartbroken. After a moment of silence, he said, My aunt said that she can't do anything in the Star Sea. The Sovereign can't go to the Star Sea for this matter. But she said she would think of a way. Lei Jun's face darkened. The last time he asked to see Lord Devour, he got the same answer. Think of a way? What way could there be? There were billions of star soldiers and dozens of venerables outside Seoul Emperor Island. If the Sovereign didn't take action, who could solve this situation? Who could save Firework? Thinking of Firework's delicate body, surrounded by a pack of wolves, Lei Jun couldn't imagine what would happen next. He remembered that Fireworks was still a virgin. The virginity of the Thunder God clan was very useful for cultivation bottlenecks. Now that she was in a wolf's den, surrounded by tigers and wolves, Lei Jun did not dare to imagine what would happen next. Monster King helped the senior elder group deal with the Flame Dragon City matter. Xiao He, Madame Jiao, I have something to do. I will leave first. Receiving the same answer again, Lei Jun couldn't sit still anymore. He suddenly stood up and said a few words. Then, he flew outside and instantly entered the teleportation formation. Before Madame Jiao and Monster King Xiao He could react, Lei Jun's figure had already rushed outside. Madame Jiao used her divine senses to scan and was shocked. She cried out involuntarily. Lei Jun is going to the teleportation formation of the Myriad Water Manor? He wants to go to Seoul Emperor Island? He is going to rescue Firework alone? Chapter 968. Uncle Lei Jun is sending himself to his death. No, I have to chase him back. Xiao He's hair immediately stood up when he heard that. He turned into an afterimage and dashed out. This frightened Ninth Lord. She quickly took out the communication Jade Talisman to send a message to Lord Devour. At the same time, she chased after Lei Jun. Swish! However, Ninth Lord's strength wasn't high, and Xiao He's speed was terrifying. By the time she and the demon guards chased after him, Xiao He had already turned into a white light and disappeared into the teleportation array. The guards guarding the teleportation array didn't dare to stop Xiao He. Ninth Lord didn't hesitate and immediately stepped into the teleportation array. The demon Thearka's nose twitched. His eyes had a flash of urgency and confusion. After living in the Flame Dragon City for so many years, his heart was no different from a human's. There were many demonic beasts that had reached the 7th grade transformation stage. However, they usually occupied a mountain in the wild or became the sole slave of an expert. Yi Qing'an was very respectful to him and treated him as a human. The people in the Flame Dragon City also treated him as an important person. Lei Jun was also very polite to him. He was already used to this kind of life. If Yi Qing'an died, Lei Jun died, and the Flame Dragon City had a new master. He wouldn't know what to do in the future. Lei Jun indeed teleported to the sea and didn't inform the Lei clan, because he knew that even if the entire Lei clan went, they would still die. He knew that he was sending himself to his death, but his daughter was there. He had to send himself to his death. When Xiao He teleported to 5-Star City, Lei Jun had already driven a dragon boat out to the sea. The dragon boat was already prepared. It was obvious that Lei Jun had already planned to go out to the sea. Lei Jun didn't choose to teleport directly to the Blood Knight continent from Longyang Prefecture because he was afraid that the Lei clan would know and follow him. Xiao He actually wanted to catch up with Lei Jun and go with him. However, Lei Jun was already gone. He didn't know what to do. He wandered around the plaza of 5-Star City and finally scratched his head helplessly. Xiao, Not long after, Lord Jiu's figure appeared in the teleportation formation. Then, the space beside Xiao He fluctuated and a fiery red figure suddenly teleported out. Xiao He, are you ready to be naughty again? Lord Devour didn't seem to blame him. He just said faintly, waving his hand to arrange a god domain that isolated their conversation. I'm really worried about Boss. If fireworks and Legion die, Boss will be very sad. Facing Lord Devour's eyes that could see through everything, Xiao He didn't argue, just begging. Sir, Legion just went out to sea. Madame Jiu lowered her voice. After reporting the situation, she didn't say anything else. Lord Devour had his own plan, so she didn't need to say more. The Lei family has a genius. Although he knows he's going to die, he didn't hesitate. He came alone. This kind of heroic spirit is rare. If Lei Jun doesn't die this time, he will have a chance to break through to the venerable realm. Lord Devour looked at the blood-red sea of stars in the distance, sighing gloomily. Xiao He didn't say anything more. She just looked at Lord Devour with more pleading eyes. Lord Jiu also couldn't bear it. Lord Devour still didn't say anything. He just stood there in silence. Buzz! At this moment, the teleportation formation glowed again. Two graceful figures appeared in the formation. Xiao He and Madame Jiu looked around, their eyes filled with astonishment. A figure wearing a white dress appeared in the teleportation formation. She stuck out her tongue at Xiao He, blinking her eyes. The other figure was wearing a black leather dress. Her body was curvy and sexy. They were Li Shui and Yin Ling. Apparently, they had used their family spies to find out the situation of Xiao He and Lei Jin. They had come here immediately. The five-star city appeared. An eccentric small beast and two peerless beauties had attracted the attention of the pedestrians on the square and the guards of the teleportation formation. No one had expected that two more peerless beauties would show up. Instantly, people in the square swallowed their saliva. Lord Devour arched his brows. He released his god domain, covering the two of them. At the same time, the outside of the god domain changed color, blocking the greedy eyes outside. Lord Devour's eyes scanned the sky on the left. The space on the left rippled, and two figures appeared out of thin air. The place where Lord Devour had just teleported was by the teleportation formation. Moreover, the space ripple wasn't that big, so some people couldn't react. But now everybody in the square had reacted. They hurried to kneel on one knee, not daring to look around. At the same time, they shouted, "Greetings, Lord!" Two venerables and several peerless beauties came to this small city at the same time. Everybody was guessing if something big had happened. The two of them didn't mind the people on the square, walking into Lord Devour's god domain. They bent to greet him, forcing a smile. "My lord, we can't control this kid anymore. All right, Li Quan, you Duan Fei, don't act like this." Lord Devour beamed a faint smile, his eyes sparkling with the light of understanding. Apparently, everybody wanted her to go to Soul King Island. Without venerable Li Quan and Yu Duanfei's connivance, how could Li Shui and Yin Ling get the news that fast? Did they know that Xiao He and I were here? The two of them were really good at putting on a pitiful act. However, although they were worried about Yi Qinghan, weren't they trying to be friendly to Lord Devour in disguise? Xiao He begged again, her eyes sparkling. Li Shui, Yin Ling, Lord Nine, and the two venerables also looked at Lord Devour with begging eyes. Forget it. Lord Devour looked at Xiao He's pitiful eyes and heaved a deep sigh, forcing a smile. Let's go to Soul King Island. Anyway, I have to warn you, if there isn't a good chance, I won't take action. Yeah, Annie, I know you're the best. You love me the most. As soon as Lord Devour relaxed, Xiao He, Li Shui, and Yin Ling cheered up. Xiao He directly jumped on Lord Devour's shoulder, kissing him. Lord Nine, Li Quan, and Yu Duanfei wanted to laugh, but they didn't dare to. They were so embarrassed. Lord Devour shook his head with a forced smile. After sending some messages, he brought his people and teleported to the Star Sea. He swung his hand, and a small, red dragon boat appeared on the sea. The few of them flew in, and Paragon Li Quan personally controlled the dragon boat as it shot forward. Its speed was even faster than Paragon Moonchaser's control of the dragon boat. Apparently, this dragon boat was much better than Moonchaser's. Outside Soul King Island, Li Fei's face was filled with excitement. In another 3 days, it would be the end of the 2-year agreement with Yi Qinghan. He was incomparably looking forward to seeing Yi Qinghan being torn into pieces by him, roaring in pain. Thinking about how he brought Yi Qinghan's head back to Supreme Island, Li Kong's face was full of gratification, and the Li family members were full of admiration and worship. Li Fei felt his heart beating a little excitedly. Xiaoyu, send a message to Yi Qinghan. If he doesn't show up in 3 days, I'm going to kill him. Li Fei stood up, looking at more than 30 venerables on the dragon boat. He was so happy. With a wave of his hand, he ordered, Xia Tian, take everyone to their positions and be on high alert. Prepare to activate the formation and tie those 3 up to the dragon boat. If Yi Qinghan doesn't come out after 3 days, tear them apart one by one. You can do whatever you want with that little beauty. Not long after, 3 crosses were erected on the 3 dragon boats that were surrounded by the 10 billion star army. And on the crosses, 3 people were chained with black iron chains. Each of them was guarded by 2 venerables. The origin energy in their hands flowed slowly, and they were ready to tear those 3 people into pieces at any time. At this moment, the wind and waves on the star sea seemed to be getting bigger and bigger, and the blood-red seawater below became even brighter. Chapter 969. The moment Venomous Snake Warrior God, Dragon Warrior God, and Fireworks were captured by Evil Moon, they had a bad feeling. Needless to say, their identities weren't that important. After this trip to the Soul Emperor Pavilion, the Viper War God and the other man had become members of the Soul Devouring Palace. However, they understood clearly that in Lord Devour's eyes, they were just passers-by. At first, Fireworks thought that someone was trying to take advantage of her Thunder God body. She even made up her mind that if someone tried to violate her, she would choose to self-destruct. However, apart from having their divine gems sealed, the 3 of them hadn't suffered any harm or abuse in the past few years. Today, the 3 of them were brought to the dragon boat and tied up tightly with frigid ice chains. Furthermore, there were 2 supremacies watching over them. Most importantly, there was a very familiar island ahead, Soul Emperor Island. The 3 of them finally confirmed a certain speculation in their hearts. Viper turned his head and exchanged glances with Dragon. He could see the helplessness and bitterness in each other's eyes. Fireworks stared at the beautiful Soul King Island in the distance. Her eyes were misty, but she did not look dispirited or sad. Her weak body appeared on the dragon boat, but she began to exude a sense of determination. She raised her head slightly, and the sparkling light in her eyes gradually disappeared. Instead, she revealed a look of anticipation. The Viper and the Dragon swept away the fireworks. Then, a gleam of light flashed in their eyes as they looked at each other again. Similarly, the helplessness in their eyes faded away and was replaced by determination. The 3 of them made a decision. If the situation became irredeemable, they would not try to salvage it. The star army around them became excited. Even the venerable ones who were guarding fireworks and the others had a cruel smile in their eyes. The Star Ocean was about to regain its lost glory and dignity. He possessed the strongest martial prowess in the immortal world, the force that had the most venerables in the immortal realm, the sea of stars that no one had dared to provoke for millions of years. But by a trash martial artist, a little divine king, he was ruthlessly slapped in the face countless times. After being stabbed countless times, the Star Sea's reputation fell to its lowest point in history, and it became the laughingstock of the entire immortal realm. As long as Yi Qinghan is alive, the martial artists of the Star Sea would not be able to raise their heads. They would continue to be the laughingstock of the entire God realm. This was the shame of every martial artist in the Star Sea. An unprecedented shame. 3 more days. This shame would be completely washed away. They would take back the glory that belonged to them. He continued to raise his head and stand proudly on the starry sea with his spine straight. Compared to these low-level martial artists, the 30 over venerables cared more about their reputation. At the same time, this was a very important opportunity. As long as he performed well, he might be able to gain the favor of the Star Monarch. He might even have a chance to enter the Nepha's Abyss the next time it opened. The nefarious Abyss had produced a 5th grade, 9th grade war god. All the martial artists and venerables of the Star Sea treated this battle as a battle of honor, the most important battle of their lives. Although the enemy was only one person, although the enemy looked like a small divine king that could be crushed with a raise of the hand, the atmosphere outside Soul Emperor Island became incomparably solemn at this moment. The smell of gunpowder in the air became more and more intense. A storm was brewing. Soul Emperor Pavilion, illusory palace. The atmosphere inside was not as relaxed as the outside. The enchantress could no longer smile. Even the alluring aura around her body had faded a little. 3 days. Only 3 days left. She could not decide whether she should wake up Yi Qinghan or not. As a member of the demon clan, the inherited memories in her mind told her to listen to Yi Qinghan and not to disobey him. However, deep in her heart, she already had a deep affection for this young man. Moreover, Yi Qinghan shouldered the great mission of avenging the Soul Emperor. How could she allow Yi Qinghan to fall because of this matter? She did not know what to do. She paced back and forth in the hall with her beautiful eyebrows tightly knitted. Yellow flowers piled up on the floor, haggard and withered. Who could pluck them now? Guarding the window. How could it be dark alone? The parasol tree was drizzling, and it was dusk bit by bit. How could this be described with the word worry? She sighed deeply and slowly turned around. However, at this moment, her body suddenly stopped moving. A pair of limpid eyes, with some astonishment, looked at the green figure on the white jade bed. That figure still did not move, but his eyes had already opened and were staring at her with bright and piercing eyes. However, within those clear black and white eyes, there seemed to be a faint trace of melancholy. After Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, he did not speak. Instead, he stared at the Yao Ji in a daze, as if deep in thought. The Yao Ji did not move, nor did she speak. She just stared at Yi Qinghan from a distance, her eyes filled with affection and tenderness like water. Gradually, Yi Qinghan's eyes became confused, as if he was in a dream. He opened his eyes and glanced at her, then continued to sleep. Moreover, he even began to murmur softly, as if he was talking in his sleep. No, this isn't how the eternal space is fused. Could it be that I've fused it wrongly? Otherwise, why can't I fuse it at the last step? The Yao Ji did not dare to move even more. She knew that Yi Qinghan had reached the last step of the fusion. However, from the looks of it, he seemed to have reached a bottleneck and was stuck at the last step. What is the use of the eternal space? How does he need to release it? Eternal? Eternal? Could it be that a certain space has reached eternal? There seems to be the laws of time involved. Could it be that I've fused it wrongly? No, if the fusion was wrong, why would I be stuck at the last step? Yi Qinghan stood up and started to wander around the hall while muttering to himself. He actually turned a blind eye to Yao Ji, as if he was a lunatic. His eyes were bewildered and his footsteps were unsteady. One moment he was shouting. The next moment he was shaking his head. As he spoke, Yi Qinghan casually waved his hands, simultaneously releasing the 4 basic profound mysteries: spatial ripple, spatial lock, spatial restriction, and spatial tremor. The 4 profound mysteries were instantly released around him. They did not seem to affect each other, as if they were doing their own thing. However, they seemed to be fusing, resonating, and intertwining with each other. The surrounding space suddenly became distorted and illusory. Yi Qinghan actually disappeared within it. The space in front of the Yao Ji seemed to have become a landscape painting, a painting of the profound mysteries of heaven and earth. This landscape painting was very mysterious. The moment the landscape painting was formed, the Yao Ji's eyes shrank, and she was incomparably shocked. After carefully looking at it for a while, the more the Yao Ji looked, the more mysterious and mystical she felt. Moreover, She felt as if her soul was being sucked into this painting. There seemed to be an inexplicable power brewing in that space, ready to explode at any moment and destroy everything. At this moment, the Yao Ji's heart was filled with a sense of fear. Something was wrong. The Yao Ji's eyebrows suddenly jumped up. She felt that something was wrong. This landscape painting was very beautiful, very mysterious, but it seemed to be missing something. The soul. It was missing the finishing touch. Clearly, as long as Yi Qinghan finished the final stroke, the painting would come to life. The terrifying energy brewing in the painting would be completely released, destroying everything. Even before the fusion was complete, it was still able to make her feel fear. Make her, a supremacy, feel fear? What kind of mystical, profound mysteries was this? What kind of power was this? No wonder the profound mysteries of heaven and earth had appeared when they fused together. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan's eyes gradually regained their clarity. However, the melancholy in his eyes still shone. He looked at the Yao Ji and sighed. How much longer until the appointed time? Chapter 970. Yao Ji was stunned once more. Then, with a bit of shame, she whispered, "There's still 2.5 days. There's still 2.5 days? There's no hurry. Come here, Yao Ji. I need your strength." Yi Qinghan wasn't angry at all. Instead, he faintly smiled. There wasn't a hint of worry or urgency in his voice. He was incomparably calm, his temperament as steady as Mount Tai. He even walked over to the bed and sat down, beckoning Yao Ji over with his hand. "What?" Yao Ji suspiciously looked at Yi Qinghan. She looked left and right, as if she didn't recognize Yi Qinghan at all. What time was it? And yet he was still thinking about such things. Could it be that Yi Qinghan's previous personality was a facade, and Yi Qinghan was actually a cold-blooded and heartless person? Don't look at me like that. I haven't changed. I need to enter the 5th level of soul silence. I need to revolve my soul even faster. I need to be calmer. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. His personality had indeed changed. After experiencing the death of the Mount Wu Wind Emperor, his personality had become much more mature. Before the great battle, what he needed was a calmer mind. Being impulsive would not save anyone. It would only kill himself and kill everyone related to him. You must go out? Must you fight? Yao Ji felt that at this moment, this little man had become a grown man. The invisible aura around him was actually comparable to the Soul Emperor of the past. It was just that the Soul Emperor of the past was a sharp treasure sword, constantly radiating light in all directions and threatening cold air. Yi Qinghan's temperament was like an unsheathed treasure sword. Normally, he was as gentle as jade, but once he was unsheathed, his killing intense soared to the heavens. Yi Qinghan's complexion turned serious. He straightened up and said, "As my woman, this question, you shouldn't ask. If the person outside was you, I wouldn't hesitate either." The enchantress was slightly taken aback. Then she smiled and said nothing. She swayed her plump buttocks as she slowly walked over. Her pair of snow-white hands began to undress Yi Qinghan. After she had completely stripped Yi Qinghan naked, she hugged his legs and laid him flat on the bed. Then, she began to slowly remove the veil on her body. A woman's most beautiful moment was not when she was wearing beautiful clothes, nor was she completely naked. Instead, it was when she took off her clothes, when her clothes were slowly taken off, when those peerless beauties were revealed bit by bit. That moment of grace was so soul-stirring, so ecstatic. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes slightly. He allowed half of his soul to worry and let his imagination run wild. The other half of his soul didn't want to think about these things. Instead, he wholeheartedly admired this peerless body that was like a lotus flower emerging from the water. Her fine black hair was tied into a beautiful bun, revealing her crystal-clear earlobes and her snow-white jade neck. Her messy hair hung down, adding a bit of charm. Her large, limpid eyes rippled like spring water. Her creamy skin was abnormally smooth, as if it could be broken by the slightest breeze. Her towering twin peaks formed a stark contrast with her slender waist. The slowly wriggling little red string made one's blood boil. Yi Qinghan didn't move. Instead, he comfortably closed his eyes. His slightly furrowed eyebrows slowly relaxed at this moment. The enchantress smiled faintly. Like a soft white snake, she leaned forward. Her pink tongue flicked out like a snake's tongue. It carried a trace of warmth as it flowed along Yi Qinghan's strong and powerful body. It brought Yi Qinghan the highest level of enjoyment in the god realm. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows relaxed more and more. His entire body began to sink into an indescribable state. Along with the enchantress's peerless body and peerless masterpiece, Yi Qinghan's body kept twisting, rubbing, and moving up and down. The entire dream palace was once again stirred up by a strong wind. There was an ancient saying that before a general went to war, a beauty would play the zither and sing loudly. At this moment, the enchantress felt that she was that beauty, playing a song for Yi Qinghan before he left. Send him away, or send him to his death. At this moment, Lord Devour's order and the doubts in her heart were all gone. She knew that this man had to fight. He had to fight for the people outside, for her, and for himself. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes even tighter. An intoxicating smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His body didn't move. He let the enchantress sway above him. It was as if he had turned into the overlord of Jiangdong. He sat quietly on the high platform, calmly watching the enchantress play the last song for him. The wind in the dream palace became stronger and stronger. Annie, haven't you found Uncle Leijin? Not far from the Soul Emperor Island, a small dragon boat was floating on the sea that was only 10,000 meters away from the Star Army. It was strange that the dragon boat was quietly floating on the sea, but the countless Star Army and venerables hiding around 10,000 meters away didn't seem to see it. Inside the dragon boat, Xiaohe, Li Shui, Yinling, Lord Jiao, and the two venerables were sitting in the main hall, protecting Lord Devour. Through the transparent shield of the dragon boat, they could see the situation outside. At this moment, Xiaohe, who was standing on the table, asked the calm Lord Devour. Yi Qinghan was indebted to Leijin, which meant that Xiaohe was indebted to Leijin. It was Fireworks' father again. Of course, Xiaohe was worried. Since Lord Devour was here, Xiaohe thought that Fireworks and Yi Qinghan could be saved, so he wasn't worried. At this moment, he was worried about Leijin, who hadn't shown up yet. Leijin had a fiery temper. Previously, in the Seal God Valley, he had dared to fight against the Wind Emperor and the Monster Sovereign alone. Since he had made up his mind, he wouldn't give up. However, today was the last day, and Leijin hadn't shown up yet. Were they late? Was Leijin dead? Venerable Li Quan and Yu Duanfei were also worried. Although they weren't close to Leijin, they had to show their attitude to show Lord Devour. Li Shuier and Lord Jiao's faces were filled with anxiety, and it was clear that their emotions came from the bottom of their hearts. It was especially so when they saw Fireworks' frail body on the dragon boat in the distance. She was trembling slightly on the tall cross, and both of them bit their lips, their eyes misting up. Yinling was also worried, but she was more excited. That man! It's been a long time since she saw him. She wondered how he would show up. Lord Devour sat there quietly like a mountain, standing still. His face didn't change, but he extended his hand, caressing Xiaohe's head. Don't rush. Let's see. Venerable Li Quan and Yu Duanfei exchanged looks, seeing the worry in each other's eyes. Lord Devour seemed to have brought them here to watch a good show. If Lord Devour didn't move, they couldn't move even if they wanted to. It was useless for Xiaohe and the others to cause trouble. Even if Lord Devour didn't remove the restriction on the dragon boat, no one would be able to get out. Send a message to Yi Qinghan. If he doesn't show up in 2 hours, he'll have to collect his corpse. On one of the dragon boats, Li Fei's eyes shone brightly as he gazed at the Soul Emperor Island. His spirit sense constantly swept the surroundings. Although his expression was calm, he couldn't hide the excitement and urgency in his eyes. Venerable Evil Moon bowed and nodded. A cruel smile appeared on his face as he sent a message. At the same time, Venerable Xia Tian sent a message to the Star Army outside. Yi Qinghan, if he doesn't show up in 2 hours, I'll kill 3 of you." Not long after, the entire Star Army outside Soul Emperor Island shouted at the same time. Their voices were like a clap of thunder on the flat ground, causing the surrounding seawater to vibrate and set off huge waves. The simultaneous roar of 10 billion people was enough to shake the world and startle the 4 seas. The rumbling echoes reverberated in all directions, lasting for a long time without end. However, before the roar could fade completely, an even louder roar was heard. Although the roar came from one person, it was so imposing that it seemed to be able to resist the roar of 10 billion people. "Fireworks, don't be afraid. Father is here. Father is here to save you." From a distance, a dragon boat shot over like a sharp sword. A stalwart man in purple was standing on the dragon boat. His purple hair fluttered in the air, making him look like a demon king. He was holding a silver spear in his hand. Although the spearhead was facing backward, the cold, murderous aura was like a gust of wind that pressed down on the Star Army. Legion was here. Chapter 971. Legion was alone, but no one knew how he could drive the dragon boat. One man, one spear, facing the 10 billion Star Army, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he looked like he was looking down on the world. He was fighting against so many people alone, but he was still so domineering. This kind of scene looked very soul-stirring and made one's blood boil. It was just like what was described in the ancient books. A general facing tens of thousands of enemies alone, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he charged forward, trying to turn the tide, to turn the situation around. However, in the eyes of the 10 billion Star Army and countless venerables, it was like they were seeing a fool. A farmer with a kitchen knife facing a bunch of fully armed fools. "Father," a desolate scream arose. Fireworks, who had been emotionless since she was tied to the cross, finally couldn't hold it anymore. She started to cry. She was muddle-headed and heartbroken. She twisted her body crazily and screamed at Legion. No matter how strong a person was, when they faced their family, they would reveal the most vulnerable part of their heart. The Viper War God and the Dragon War God exchanged looks again. They felt their blood boiling, and tears rolled down their cheeks. Although they knew Legion was stupid and naive, neither of them thought that Legion was wrong. It was the most sincere love a father had for his daughter. What emotion in the world could move people more than this? Legion knew he was going to die, but he still came. He came without hesitation, and he came with arrogance. Legion is a hero of this generation. Even in such a situation, he can still be so imposing and domineering. "I am not as good as him." In the dragon boat, not far from them, Lord Devour was still emotionless. However, Li Kuan's eyes were shining, and he sighed sincerely. "Legion is a real man." Yu Duanfei's eyes were misty, but there was a strange light deep in her eyes. She thought to herself, "If such a man could die for me, my life would be worth it. He's an idiot, a complete idiot. If he doesn't die now, when will he? He's so stupid." Li Kuan and Yu Duanfei's pleading didn't move Lord Devour. Quite the contrary. It seemed Legion had touched the scar in Lord Shi's heart. He slapped the table and cursed indignantly. His eyes were filled with rage and pain. Inside the dragon boat, as Lord Devour was enraged, the air seemed to freeze. Even dripping spring and flying rain felt a strong pressure. The others felt like a mountain was pressing on them, suffocating them. Xiaohei and Madame Jio wanted to say something, but Lord Devour was enraged for no reason. They kept quiet out of fear, and the cold air rose in the dragon boat. No one dared to say another word. Lord Devour rarely lost her temper. At least, they had never seen her this furious. "Li Fei, come out and see me." At this time, everyone was attracted by Legion's angry roar. At this moment, Legion was already less than 100 miles away from the Star Army. He stepped on the dragon boat, and his body turned into a series of afterimages. He flew thousands of meters into the sky and shouted from above. It was as if Li Fei was a small character, his subordinate. "Humph! Who do you think you are? Do you think you can call out His Excellency's name? You're courting death. A 7th-grade war god from the Lei family dares to be so insolent? Kill him. Kill this bastard. No, capture him and tie him to their daughter. The Star Army was instantly enraged. Countless people cursed. Of course, no one dared to move because Li Fei had set up a great formation. If the people were disorderly, the formation would be messed up. No one dared to face Honorable Li Fei's anger. Sir, should I go out and capture him alive? In the dragon boat, Honorable Xia Tian and Honorable Evil Moon asked at the same time. The Honorables outside had already set up the formation, so they could not move recklessly. At this moment, the two of them naturally volunteered. Otherwise, Li Fei would have to capture a mere 7th-grade war god himself. No need. Li Fei shook his head, his face grave. A 7th-grade war god suddenly appeared at this critical moment. Although this person was Fireworks' father, Li Fei did not dare to be careless. Perhaps it was a conspiracy of the Misty Continent? Otherwise, what was the point of sending a 7th-grade war god to his death? After a moment of silence, Li Fei said, "Send 10 7th-grade war gods. Don't capture him alive, just kill him. Pass down the message. The rest of the people are not to move." Honorable Xia Tian nodded. At this critical moment, it was better not to have any accidents. He hurriedly passed down the message. Not long after, 10 7th-grade war gods shot out and charged toward Leijun. Without a word of nonsense, all of them used their killer moves. "Father, hurry up and leave. Leave now." Fireworks screamed again. At this moment, she was already in a mess. Her whole body was twisting desperately. Her wrists, ankles, and neck, which was like a swan's, were all scratched by the ice chains. Her hair was disheveled. Her beautiful face was filled with pain, and her eyes were filled with despair. Lei Jun's expression did not change, and he did not look at the fireworks. His silver spear danced wildly, and the 2 purple horns on his head flickered with lightning. The silver spear was also surrounded by arcs of lightning, emitting crackling sounds. 10 7th-grade war gods shot toward him. Instead of retreating, he advanced. His body turned into a series of afterimages, and at the same time, the arcs of electricity on the 2 horns on his head shone even brighter. He actually used his ultimate move, the Wrath of the Thunder God. Terrifying electricity flickered between the silver spear and the 2 horns, and finally turned into arcs of electricity as thick as a fist. They violently shot out in the shape of a fan. The arcs of electricity attracted each other, creating bursts of electricity. A terrifying aura emanated from the arcs of electricity, and the temperature of the air instantly rose. Like an electric net, it shot toward the 10 7th-grade war gods. F***CK. What's that? The 10 7th-grade war gods were startled. Even though they did not know how powerful this thing was, they felt that human flesh could not withstand it. They immediately changed their direction and dodged to the side. Leijun sneered. His body once again turned into a series of afterimages, shooting to the left. The spearhead turned into a series of afterimages, enveloping the 4 7th-grade war gods. Hiss hiss! The electric snakes made heart-palpitating noises and unexpectedly changed their direction along with the others. This was not important. What was important was that the electric snakes suddenly sped up. Under the frightened gazes of the 10, countless electric snakes instantly caught up to them and coiled around their bodies. In an instant, a pungent burning smell pervaded the air. The bodies of the 4 simultaneously trembled, and then 4 crisp sounds of watermelons cracking rang out. Leijun's eyes were like lightning. His figure flashed again, and he dodged to the right. He easily brandished his long spear and enveloped the 6 7th-grade war gods. Then, 6 more watermelon cracking noises rang out. A red and white rain floated down from the sky. Blood and brain matter streaked across the sky. 10 headless corpses fell silently, and 10 sparkling divine crystals floated up, dazzling and resplendent. Hiss! A series of gasps sounded. Countless eyes stared at Leijun, who was standing proudly in the sky, as if they could not believe their own eyes. Since when did 7th grade war gods become like cabbages that could be killed in an instant? Even fireworks stopped crying and struggling. She looked at Lei Jun as if she did not know him. Since when did this father of hers become so strong? However, fireworks seemed to recall something. Her eyes became dazed, and she felt that something was wrong. Chapter 972. Wow. Annie, Uncle Leijun, the people on the dragon boat were also shocked. Xiaohei pointed at Lei Jun, then looked at Lord Devour, stuttering. Venerable Li Quan and Yu Duanfei exchanged looks and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They looked at Lord Devour, waiting for his explanation. The Lei family finally has a talent, Lord Devour said faintly, ignoring Xiaohei and the others' doubtful looks. Only Venerable Li Quan and Yu Duanfei looked as if they had expected it. Yu Duanfei's eyes brightened when he looked at Lei Jun. Lei Jun had almost instantly killed 10 war gods at the peak of 7th grade, but his expression did not change in the slightest. He continued to stand proudly in the air, ignoring the divine crystals and spatial rings floating in the air. He raised his spear and said, Li Fei, come out and talk. This time, no one dared to insult him. Lei Jun had used the death of 10 war gods to prove his strength, and that he was qualified to talk to Li Fei directly. Li Fei, Xie Yu, and Xia Tian exchanged looks. They were all surprised. The bloodline of the Thunder God was powerful, but it wasn't strong enough to kill someone at the same level. Lord, I'll go out and meet him. Venerable Xia Tian thought for a while and volunteered to go out and capture Lei Jun. Don't move. You stay in the middle to prevent any accidents. Pay attention to the formation. Don't move without my order. Our target is Yi Qinghan. Li Fei waved his hand. The more critical the moment, the more nervous she was. If they couldn't kill Yi Qinghan this time and let him escape, all their efforts would be in vain, and it would be hard to explain to Li Kong. Then, Li Fei teleported. However, he stood in the sky above the Star Army, looking at Lei Jun. His long green hair fluttered in the air, very eye-catching. He looked at Lei Jun coldly and said, I am Li Fei. Lei Jun, if you don't want to die, leave now. His tone was cold and overbearing. The Star Army's morale was boosted. This was the Star Sea style, overbearing and unreasonable. Lei Jun's expression did not change. He only coldly looked at Li Fei and said, I'll exchange my daughter for your hostage. How about it? What if I refuse? Li Fei's eyes flashed with a trace of playfulness as he said mockingly. Very simple. With a wave of his hand, Lei Jun actually retrieved the long spear. Then, a raging inferno erupted from his body, while a layer of white qi flowed out from his body. The white air current was very faint, but it was extremely eye-catching in the raging fire. Lei Jun revealed a hint of craziness at the corner of his mouth. He smiled and said, If you refuse, then I will use the 10 million Star Army to die with me and my daughter. Wah! The Star Army was in an uproar, and Li Fei's expression changed. Xie Yu and Xia Tian, who were in the dragon boat, revealed expressions of as expected. Inside the small dragon boat, Xiaohei and Li Shui's group were more astounded. Lord Devour had a gleam of approval in his eyes. Viper and Firework Dragon's eyes lit up. Fireworks finally knew why he felt that something was wrong. After releasing Thunder God's fury, there would be a period of weakness. However, Lei Jun did not show any signs of weakness. Lei Jun, who was at the peak of rank 7, would definitely have a reaction. But where was the rank 8 Lei Jun? Lei Jun was determined to die, so he went to the Star Sea, but he suddenly reached rank 8 halfway. He became a venerable. Lord Devour said that if Lei Jun did not die this time, he would most likely break through. Unexpectedly, he broke through in advance. Li Fei had a slight headache. If a venerable self-detonated, they might be fine, but the Star Army below would be in trouble. At this moment, the Star Army below had formed a large formation and blocked all the blind spots. It was absolutely impossible for Yi Qinghan to sneak out. However, it was a fatal spot now. The Star Army below was too densely packed. If Lei Jun self-detonated, 10 million Star Army soldiers would die. It should be known that these Star Army soldiers were absolutely loyal to the Supreme Island's strongest group. The weakest martial artists were at least third-tier God King realm. If 10 million of them died at once, the Star Lord would definitely tear him apart. The most important thing was that once the explosion happened, the Star Army would be in chaos. If Yi Qinghan had been watching from the Soul Emperor Island, he would not have let go of such a good opportunity. He would have taken advantage of the chaos to escape. As the Deputy City Lord of Fiery Dragon City, Lei Jun's influence on Yi Qinghan shouldn't be any lower than fireworks. Li Fei thought. Exchanging Lei Jun for fireworks wasn't a loss. After all, she was a venerable, wasn't she? And a venerable with the Thunder God's bloodline. Father! Before Li Fei could say anything, a clear and melodious shout rang out from the other side. There was no sadness or sadness in the voice. It was very calm, attracting Li Fei's attention. Fireworks looked calm, but there was a tinge of guilt and sadness in her eyes. She laughed and said loudly, "I'm sorry." She smiled and said loudly, "Did you forget who you are? You have the Thunder God's bloodline. You are the first venerable of the Lei family in 10 million years. Fireworks is unfilial. I can't be filial to you anymore. Father, take care of yourself and take revenge for me. Otherwise, I won't forgive you even if I die. Big Brother Yi, in the next life, Fireworks will be your wife." As she spoke, the two little pink horns on Fireworks' head suddenly lit up. Her creamy skin turned bright red. The scratches on her wrists, legs, and neck automatically healed. At the same time, arcs of lightning flashed on her skin, and her white palace dress fluttered without any wind. At that moment, she looked like a goddess descending into the world, incredibly pure and holy. A gentle light shone from her petite body, and a massive energy that made the two sovereigns guarding her feel fear spread out from her body. At this moment, the countless Star Army warriors on the dragon boat changed their expressions and began to run in all directions. Thunder God's sacrifice? Fireworks? Lei Jun's face could no longer remain calm. This was a skill unique to women with the Thunder God's bloodline, and they had to be virgins. The explosion of energy was no less than the self-destruction of a 7th-grade war god. Originally, this Thunder God sacrifice was offered to the man she loved to help him break through a bottleneck. Who would have thought that fireworks would be used to self-destruct? Annie, Fireworks is going to die. Fireworks is going to die. In the small dragon boat, Xiaohei's hair stood on end. Her entire body emitted a fierce aura. She anxiously jumped up and down in the dragon boat, constantly shouting at Lord Devour. Li Shui's fingernails dug deep into her palms. She bit her lips so hard that she didn't even realize that she had bitten them. Li Quan and Yu Duanfei's murderous aura burst out. They looked at Lord Devour. As long as she gave the order, they would not care about anything else. They would go out and kill. Lord Devour didn't say anything, and his expression didn't change. He didn't care about the others, but his eyes were not on Fireworks, but on Lei Jun. Ha! Lei Jun suddenly faced the sky and laughed crazily. The flames on his body became fiercer. He looked at Fireworks and slightly shook his head. His eyes were filled with madness. What does the Lei family have to do with me? I can't even care about my daughter? Do I still have to care about the Lei family? Fireworks, if you want to die, your father will accompany you to the 9 Nether Realm. Even if millions of people die with me, it's worth it. Chapter 973. Li Fei was panicking. What kind of people were they? Why did they want to self-destruct? A person only had one life. No one had ever been to the legendary 9 Nether Realm. No one knew if their soul would be sucked into the 9 Nether Realm. Martial artists were actually most afraid of death, because wasn't defying the heavens and changing one's fate all for the sake of obtaining greater power? Wasn't it to reach the peak of being a warrior, to be immortal, to be with heaven and earth? Venerables were afraid of death the most. In fact, when they reached this realm, it was rare to fight to the death. After all, it wasn't easy for them to reach this realm. Of course, it was a different story if someone killed their father or stole their wife. Now, there was not only Lei Jin, but also Lei Huayan, who had powerful energy. If the two of them exploded, the fireworks would be beautiful, but Li Fei guessed that she would be beautiful when she was slapped to death by Star Sovereign. Annie, Annie. In the small dragon boat, Xiaohei was so anxious that he wanted to bang his head on the wall. He almost roared at Lord Devour. The rest of the people in the dragon boat were also anxious like ants on a hot pan. But they didn't dare to talk to Lord Devour like that. They didn't even dare to speak. Lord Devour still didn't move. The space around Lei Jun started to shake. He was about to teleport, but he still didn't move. But when Lei Jun teleported into the Star Legion, and the Star Legion fled in all directions, fireworks, Viper, Dragon, and the 6 Venerables were ready to teleport, Lord Devour moved. She stood up suddenly, her beautiful eyes brightening. But she wasn't looking at Lei Jun and fireworks, but at the sky. Then she sent a message. Lei Jun, Lei Hua, Viper, and Dragon, don't move. Lei Jun, fireworks, and Viper received the message at the same time. The 4 of them were shocked. The flames on fireworks and Lei Jun's body gradually stopped burning. The 4 of them were ecstatic because this voice was Lord Devour's voice. Lord Devour came. Inside the small dragon boat, Venerable Li Quan and Duanfei were confused. They followed Lord Devour's gaze to the sky, but didn't see anything. Why was Lord Devour acting so strangely? Swish! Countless members of the Star Army were fleeing. Similarly, under Li Fei's signal, countless Venerables teleported out and surrounded Lei Jun and the other 3. If Lei Jun and the fireworks self-destructed, the 30-odd Venerables could only rely on their origin energy to resist the shockwaves of the explosion. Otherwise, countless people would die. At the same time, Li Fei ordered the rest of the Star Army to stay alert and not panic, in case Yi Qinghan took advantage of the chaos to escape. This was the best solution that Li Fei could think of in an instant. However, the flames on fireworks and Lei Jun's bodies suddenly retracted. He actually didn't self-destruct. F***CK. Kill Lei Jun for me. Li Fei was enraged. So many people had actually been fooled by Lei Jun. With a furious roar, the weapons in the hands of countless Venerables began to revolve around them. They were about to attack. Buzz! With a flash of white light, Lei Jun's body was surrounded by his origin energy and lightning. The 2 horns on his head shone with an incomparably dazzling white light. A small barrier of light enveloped Lei Jun, Lei Hua, and Venomous Snake. Lei Jun actually wanted to rely on the lightning god's protection to resist the attacks of more than 30 Venerables. Boom! Suddenly, just as Li Fei and the 30-odd Venerables were rushing towards Lei Jun, something strange happened again. In the sky, countless rainbow-colored auspicious clouds appeared at lightning speed. These rainbow-colored auspicious clouds appeared very abruptly. No one knew where they came from. Moreover, each auspicious cloud contained a huge amount of energy. This kind of energy caused everyone present to tremble. That's right, they were trembling. Their bodies were trembling. Their souls were trembling. Every single cell in their body was trembling. Many people had seen the heaven and earth phenomenon before. Some had even witnessed it with their own eyes and felt it personally. However, none of them had seen such a terrifying heaven and earth phenomenon before. This was the purest heaven and earth energy, the most terrifying heaven and earth energy. The origin energy of heaven and earth that could destroy everything. Li Fei did not dare to move. All the Venerables did not dare to move. Under such a violent heaven and earth energy, who dared to move? If they used the heaven and earth energy to directly attack, even Li Kong would be turned into dregs in an instant. Rumble, rumble. The rainbow-colored auspicious clouds in the sky constantly rubbed against each other, causing a series of rumbling sounds. This sound was much louder than the simultaneous roars of 10 billion people. At this moment, the 10 billion people below felt their ears ringing, and it was as if they had gone deaf. Within the countless auspicious clouds, numerous enormous white lightning bolts surged within. It was as if numerous true dragons were swimming within the clouds. The sound was vast and shocking. Each of those lightning dragons was 1,000 meters long and several meters thick. Every single one of them carried terrifying energy. Li Fei felt that any of the lightning dragons could instantly kill any of the venerables present. They wouldn't even be able to escape. This. My lord, this is... Venerable Li Quan's eyes were filled with shock. A few years ago, a similar heaven and earth phenomenon had appeared in Dripping Spring City. At that time, he was the closest to the heaven and earth energy. However, the difference between that heaven and earth phenomenon and this heaven and earth phenomenon was like heaven and earth. The divine lightning that descended at the end was about the same size as the lightning dragons in the sky. It was very obvious that these lightning dragons would eventually become one. Such terrifying energy. Could it be the legendary god's punishment? Yu Duanfei didn't know the reason, but when she saw Lord Devour's smile and his bright eyes, she was delighted. She asked, "My lord, could it be caused by the pavilion?" Lord Devour looked as if he was hundreds of thousands of years younger. His joyful aura was overflowing. His face was covered in radiance, which made him look so beautiful. He waved at Xiaohei and hugged Xiaohei. Then he sat down and said with a smile, "Sit down. Wait for a good show." A good show? Xiaohei, Li Shuier, and Madame Nine were bewildered. They thought that Lord Devour was going to take action. They didn't expect that Lord Devour would just sit down. There was no sign that he was going to take action. Was he going to watch a good show? Whose show was he going to watch? Who was going to perform? Li Quan and Yu Duanfei shivered. Their eyes filled with disbelief. Their breaths hastened, and their eyes were filled with anticipation. On the contrary, Yin Ling Air's eyes brightened. Her ample bosom began to shiver. Her beautiful eyes gazed at the left. The left. That was the direction of Soul Emperor Island. On Soul Emperor Island, the 8 venerables had already woken up. At this moment, they all stood up. Only the 8 of them knew that the center of the auspicious clouds was the Soul Emperor Pavilion. They were under a lot of pressure outside the Soul Emperor Pavilion. At this moment, the 8 of them had the urge to run away. "Don't move. It's not a god's punishment this time. You guys are fine. Continue to guard." 7 voices rang in the 7 venerables' ears. The 7 of them were shocked and looked at each other. All of them were moved. From the eyes of the others, besides the Star Sovereign who was in seclusion, all the sovereigns were alarmed. Even the hidden sovereigns had come out from the secret territory. They were watching this side quietly. The wind and clouds moved, and the world was shocked. Chapter 974. Inside the Soul Emperor Pavilion, Yao Ji's body trembled incessantly. She was completely unaware of the chaos outside. It was very difficult for women of the bewitching race to reach a true climax. But this time, after 3 consecutive days of incessant stimulation, Yao Ji felt that her body and soul had reached the peak of excitement. Her skin was flushed pink, and every cell in her body was trembling. "I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm going to die." Yao Ji's plump buttocks writhed even more violently. Her entire body was like a snake, writhing. She was very tired. She also knew that the bewitching race could not allow their bodies to reach the peak of excitement because it would cause great harm to their bodies. But Yi Qinghan needed it, so she was ready to risk it all. With a loud moan, peach blossom nectar gushed out of Yao Ji's body and was completely absorbed by Yi Qinghan. Yao Ji's entire body trembled violently, and all her muscles convulsed. She lay on Yi Qinghan's body like a dead fish, breathing in through her nose and mouth, but not out. Yi Qinghan's eyes suddenly opened. With a roar, he arched his body and violently spewed out. He hugged Yao Ji tightly, his eyes sparkling and his skin glowing with an indescribable luster. He did not comfort Yao Ji, but gently placed her on the bed. Then, he picked up a nearby veil and covered her. He picked up the green robe on the bed and quickly put it on. He took out the dragon sword saber and tied it behind his back. Then, he gently kissed her forehead and said with a smile, "Have a good rest." Send me out. Yao Ji weakly opened her eyes and forced a smile. She said softly, I'll wait for your return. Rumble. In the skies above Seoul Emperor Island, the wild power of heaven and earth became even more violent. The 10 billion martial artists felt like they were small boats in a raging sea that could be destroyed at any moment. They would be blasted into nothingness. But no one dared to retreat or escape because they did not know if they could escape at this moment. Another reason was that Li Fei and the others did not move. Li Fei's head of green hair fluttered in the air, but his eyes flickered with a gloomy and indeterminate light. He had a very bad premonition in his heart, but the supremacies on Seoul Emperor Island didn't move. He thought that this was a heaven and earth anomaly and not a divine punishment, because they hadn't done anything to provoke the divine punishment. Today was a very crucial day, but strange changes had occurred again and again. Leijin's appearance was not a big deal, but now a strange phenomenon had suddenly appeared, which made him very worried. There was even an inexplicable sense of fear. The other 30-odd venerables were also worried and afraid. The higher the realm of a martial artist, the stronger the premonition of danger. At this moment, the 30 over supremacies sensed a premonition of danger. This place was very dangerous. Run for your life. They didn't know where the danger came from. 10 billion-star realm experts and dozens of venerables. How could there be danger? Could it be that a 9th-grade war god would make a move? Buzz! Suddenly, a burst of light came from Seoul Emperor Island, attracting everyone's attention. When a green figure appeared out of thin air above Seoul Emperor Island, more than 30 supremacies narrowed their eyes. They knew where the danger came from. This danger came from the green-robed man on Seoul Emperor Island, Yi Qinghan. This was a very absurd thing. Extremely absurd. Big Brother Yi, Little Han, Brother Yi. For loud shouts came from within the Thunder God's protection of the Star Army. Their voices were filled with surprise, grievance, worry, and fear. Yi Qinghan didn't answer them. He didn't even look at the black mass of people in front of him. He stood proudly in midair, his eyes closed. His green robe billowed in the wind, his black hair dancing wildly in the air. Even the dragon sword saber on his back was trembling slightly, as if it was about to unsheath itself and kill all the enemies in front of him. Rumble! The 7-colored auspicious clouds in the sky moved faster and faster. Countless thunder dragons began to interweave and merge, two becoming one. The pressure on Seoul Emperor Island became even more terrifying. Wild energy wreaked havoc in the sky and sea. Huge waves began to surge in the blood-red sea. Countless dragon boats began to sway left and right. Countless people began to tremble. The surging of the sky and the surroundings formed a sharp contrast with Yi Qinghan, who stood proudly in the sky with his eyes closed. This scene was extremely strange and awkward. Yi Qinghan, don't play tricks there. Hurry up and come out. We'll kill the 4 of them immediately. Li Fei roared angrily. There was a trace of panic and fear in his voice, though he didn't know why he was like this. But Yi Qinghan still didn't move. Kill the 4 of them now. Li Fei couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't care less about the increasingly wild energy in the sky and the divine thunder that could fall at any moment. He felt that if he didn't act now, he would force Yi Qinghan to come out. Things would become worse and worse, completely out of his control. Xiao. The moment Li Fei moved, the countless venerables also moved. They couldn't wait any longer. If they waited any longer, they felt that they would all die. Eternal space? Wrong, wrong, wrong. Ha! Suddenly, Yi Qinghan moved. He opened his eyes and laughed wildly towards the sky. His voice was incomparably insolent and incomparably elated. Unbridled. His eyes were filled with divine light at this moment, and his entire body was emitting a faint white light. His entire person became incomparably holy, like a god descending, undefeatable. Yi Qinghan's words caused Li Fei and the rest to be slightly startled. All of them turned their heads subconsciously. They frowned and stared at him, not understanding what he was saying. What was the use of saying this now? But in the next second, Yi Qinghan actually laughed loudly as if there was no one else around. He said leisurely, "Eternal space, it's not eternal space at all, but willpower. I didn't expect willpower to actually be a kind of spatial profound mystery. Willpower can not only be bestowed by the laws of heaven and earth, but it can also be comprehended by martial artists through cultivation. Willpower originally uses the power of space and heaven and earth to suppress everything. It itself is a kind of profound mystery, so of course it can be fused. Haha, this young master actually comprehended the profound mystery of willpower. This young master actually possesses willpower. Ha! Yi Qinghan's words were somewhat inexplicable. They were very profound and mysterious, causing countless people to be confused. However, Yi Qinghan's last sentence was like a sudden clap of thunder that exploded in everyone's ears, causing them to feel dizzy. Kaboom! An earth-shattering explosion was heard, as a real clap of thunder descended. Following the earth-shattering explosion, a 10-meter-thick, 1,000-meter-long bolt of godly thunder emerged from the colorful clouds. With a destructive pressure, it directly struck downwards. Its target was Yi Qinghan, who was standing proudly in the sky. Yi Qinghan's body did not move. Instead, a smile appeared on his face as he raised his hands, welcoming the descent of the godly thunder. An incomparably blinding light, like the explosion of a demonic sun, lit up on Yi Qinghan's body. In an instant, it enveloped Yi Qinghan's entire body. At this moment, everyone was blinded. That explosion earlier on had caused everyone to go deaf as well. At this moment, even their souls seemed to freeze. Everyone felt as if they had died, and their souls began to slowly fly upwards. Leijin's Thunder God protection also quietly exploded at this moment. Countless dragon boats outside Soul Emperor Island, under the pressure of that array just now, were all turned to dust. Countless martial artists that were hiding were forced to reveal themselves. The dozens of supremacies that were flying in midair and attacking the Thunder God protection were directly pressed into the sea. All the martial artists were pressed into the sea. The entire Soul Emperor Island trembled at this moment. The Soul Emperor Pavilion emitted a dazzling light. The restrictive barrier automatically activated to resist the aftermath of the heavenly might. After a moment, everyone's eyes recovered. They looked around at the wreckage of the dragon boats and the countless fallen Star Army soldiers. They looked at each other in dismay. Something's wrong. Where is Yi Qinghan? Li Fei blinked his eyes in confusion. He looked around and then exclaimed. His eyes were fixed on the sky above Soul Emperor Island. There was nothing there. Yi Qinghan had disappeared. Swish, swish, swish. Countless eyes locked onto the sky above Soul Emperor Island at the same time. At the same time, their divine senses swept in all directions. However, they still could not find Yi Qinghan's voice. Countless people had a doubt in their minds at the same time. Could it be that Yi Qinghan had been blasted into pieces? Or did he escape during the chaos? Buzz! Suddenly, the space above the Star Army trembled. Li Kong's expression changed. More than 30 supremacies looked up at the sky at the same time. The 10 billion Star Army also looked up subconsciously. However, in the next second, everyone's expression changed instantly. They became incomparably pale, without any color of blood. They became completely hopeless. The surrounding spatial power condensed in the air and finally turned into a giant face. This giant face looked like a person's face. Yi Qinghan's face. Chapter 975. With the appearance of this giant face, the entire space seemed to freeze. No one could move. Even dozens of supremacies couldn't move. Not even teleportation. The entire space seemed to be frozen at this moment, as if it had become eternal. Eternal space is not stopping time in a certain space to achieve the effect of eternity. It is freezing the power of space here, forcefully imprisoning it, using the powerful power of space to suppress everything, suppress all martial artists. with the power of space controlled. Who can move? Who can resist? Without source, who can compete? With will, no one can resist. No wonder will is unstoppable. No matter how strong a person is, can they resist the power of heaven and earth? A faint voice resounded. This was Yi Qinghan's voice. He seemed to be muttering to himself, but also as if he was explaining the truth of heaven and earth. Although the 10 billion people below couldn't move their bodies, they could use their souls. When they heard Yi Qinghan's words, countless people were shocked. Because of Yi Qinghan, countless spatial powerhouses had gathered below. There were also many God-Emperor spatial powerhouses. Countless people had studied eternal space before. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's words were like a blow to their heads, and they instantly came to an understanding. The legendary mysteries of eternal space did exist. That spatial powerhouse from 10 million years ago was right. This problem that had plagued the divine world for 10 million years had finally been solved. But no one could have imagined that eternal space was actually will. Will could not only be bestowed by heaven and earth, but it could also be comprehended by people. If this news spread throughout the divine world, it could be imagined that the entire divine world would experience a strong earthquake. While the countless spatial powerhouses were shocked, they were also secretly overjoyed. If they did not die this time, they would try their best to comprehend eternal space. Once they succeeded, they would become invincible gods of war. The spatial law was not a useless law. It was not a supreme law, but a supreme law, a law that could create invincible gods of war. If it wasn't a supreme law, then what was? In truth, the entire Soul Emperor Island was experiencing an earthquake, a powerful earthquake. Yi Qinghan was a minor god monarch, a stray dog, someone they thought was dead for sure. He actually grasped will and became an invincible god of war? That was not important. What was important was that they and Yi Qinghan had formed an irreconcilable enmity. At this moment, their lives were in the hands of Yi Qinghan. Leijun was stunned silly. He looked at the face in the sky. That familiar face, at this moment, felt so strange. He knew that Yi Qinghan was very awesome. How could someone who could lead them out of Seal God Valley not be awesome? But what he didn't expect was that Yi Qinghan was actually this awesome. Venomous Snake and Dragon were dumbfounded. At this moment, both of them felt like their minds were in a mess. They felt dizzy, as if they had drunk the strongest alcohol in the world. Fireworks was drunk, looking at the face in the sky. She really wanted to laugh out loud. She really wanted to proudly tell everyone that was her man. Li Fei fainted. He looked at the sky in a daze, not daring to believe it. He started to feel endless fear, and he started to hate Li Tian. This enmity was a little too big, so big that the Li family might be destroyed because of it. Evil Moon was stunned. Countless venerables were stunned. They had pursued this realm for hundreds of thousands of years, even millions of years. A young boy, a descendant who was many generations younger than them, a little warrior who had cultivated for less than 100 years, had actually reached it. Lord Devour laughed. His laughter was rippling, arrogant, and joyful. Ever since the Soul Emperor died, he had never laughed like this. Xiaohei's hair was still standing on end. His pair of spirited eyes were filled with pride. That expression, that raised head, it seemed to be telling everyone, "That's my boss. I, Lord Xiaohei's boss." Dripping Spring River's Rain Duanfei was also frightened. "You can't play like this, right? Kid, if you play like this, how can we, the seniors, endure it in the future?" Li Shui, and Lord Jiu were silent. At this moment, they didn't dare to make a sound, afraid that they would disturb this dream. However, Yin Ling giggled. Her curvaceous body twisted and turned. Her exquisite face was filled with excitement. Her first man had actually become a monarch. Although she was raped, no, she didn't resist at all. I had no conflict with the Star Sea. Peach Blossom and Sahan loved each other. Peach Blossom venerable. For your selfish desire, you forcefully separated them. I snatched them. This is my fault. I have no complaints if you want to kill me. But what wrong did the millions of people of the Flame Dragon City do? What wrong did the civilians of the Flame Dragon continent do? Their crimes shouldn't involve their families, and the civilians shouldn't be implicated. The experts of the divine realm are supreme. If you want to kill me, if you have the ability to kill me, I have nothing to say. If that's the case, I have the ability to kill you now. If I want to kill you now, you should have nothing to say. The ethereal voice continued, with boundless dominance and soaring anger, resounding in the ears of the billions of Star Army soldiers. It was like the decree of a monarch, undefiable and undefiable. Uncle Lei Jun, take fireworks and the others to the sea 10,000 meters to the left. The space fluctuated, and the pressure around Lei Jun and the others suddenly disappeared. Lei Jun was overjoyed. He quickly surrounded Fireworks and Viper War God with his origin power and broke the ice chains on them. Then, he took the three of them and teleported. Strangely enough, after the four reached the sea 10,000 miles to the left, their figures suddenly disappeared. But it didn't seem like teleportation. Even divine senses couldn't detect them. The spatial energy in the air started to flow again. Yi Qinghan's huge face disappeared and was replaced by a huge palm that was 10,000 meters long. It brought with it a pressure that could destroy heaven and earth as it slammed down towards Li Fei and the dozens of venerables. No, Yi Qinghan, you can't kill me. The Star Sovereign won't let you go. At the last moment, Li Fei actually burned his origin power in exchange for a roar. In the end, he could only hope to use the name of the Star Sovereign to scare Yi Qinghan. The Star Sovereign was the #1 in the divine realm. Even the South Mountain Sovereign was defeated by him in one move. He thought that Yi Qinghan might have some reservations. Boom! But what responded to him was a deafening sound. The giant palm smashed a bottomless pit in the sea. Around the palm, except for the huge waves, not a single drop of water flowed toward the pit in the middle. With the appearance of the pit, dozens of venerables and more than 1 billion Star Army soldiers disappeared. Strictly speaking, they were all smashed into powder, and not even their divinity crystals were left. One palm smashed more than 1 billion people to death. The waves soared into the sky and crashed down heavily. Apart from the roaring of the waves, there was only silence, a deathly silence. The giant face in the sky disappeared, and a figure in a green robe stood proudly in the sky. The space pressure was also lifted at this moment, but the remaining billions of people still felt that the pressure was still there, and even breathing was extremely difficult. Countless pale yellow liquid and cold sweat flowed down from the crotch of the martial artists and into the blood-red seawater. Other than the fishy smell of the seawater, the smell of the seawater was also accompanied by a faint smell of sex. It was too cruel. He was not a human. He was the devil's sovereign of the 9 underworlds, the Devil King. These words appeared in the minds of countless martial artists at this moment. It was normal to kill people in the divine realm. Countless people died almost every moment. But it was the first time in the history of the divine realm that more than 1 billion people were killed with one palm. There were more than 30 venerables here. Venerables! Swoosh! A figure suddenly rushed out of the pit, which made countless people puzzled. There was actually someone alive? Lord, Yi-in-law, spare me. I hope you can spare my life for the sake of the peach blossom. I know I was wrong. I was blind, a martial artist with disheveled hair and blood all over his body. He knelt in midair and kept kowtowing. Peach blossom, if it wasn't for the sake of the peach blossom, would you still be alive? Yi Qinghan said coldly, not even looking at the peach blossom venerable. Looking at the Star Army outside the Soul Emperor Island, he said faintly, "Go back and tell Li Kong to stay on the Supreme Island. If he dares to come out, I will kill him. I will spare your lives for the sake of the Star Monarch. Get lost." Then, Yi Qinghan turned into a flash of lightning and flew towards the sea where Lei Jun disappeared. Lord Devour's small dragon boat had already opened the protective shield, but for some reason, the martial artists couldn't detect it. As soon as he entered the dragon boat, Yi Qinghan looked at Lord Devour and the joyful crowd. He smiled, then rolled his eyes and fainted. Chapter 976. The Star Army outside Seoul Emperor Island scattered quickly. In just a few blinks of an eye, the densely packed crowd of people had disappeared. The dragon boats were destroyed. Many experts had them, but they didn't have time to take them out. They just ran away as fast as they could. No one cared about the direction. The most important thing was to leave this place first. Seoul Emperor Island resumed its tranquility. Only the remains of the dragon boats were left floating on the sea. The crater created by the giant hand was swallowed by the seawater. However, the billions of people could only stay outside Seoul Emperor Island forever, watching the tides rise and fall, the clouds gather and disperse in the small dragon boat. When Yi Qinghan fainted, it scared a lot of people, especially Xiaohe and Fireworks, who were scared to death. Fireworks hugged Yi Qinghan hurriedly, not knowing what to do. Lei Jun and Dripping Spring also used their divine senses to check. They were puzzled. How could such a fierce man faint just like that? Why are you panicking? Lord Devour said faintly. He looked at Yi Qinghan and said with a smile, Little Han just consumed too much energy. He just needs to rest for a while. He has just broken through to the God Arch realm, and the heaven and earth divine thunder bestowed him the origin power. Then he immediately used the will attack. His foundation isn't stable, and his soul has consumed too much energy. It's not bad that he could endure until now. Hearing Lord Devour, everybody exhaled in relief. Lei Jun's and Venerable Li Quan's eyes lit up. Venerable Li Quan asked, Lord, that divine lightning just now bestowed origin energy. Yes. Lord Devour nodded. Looking at people's curious eyes, he pondered for a while and explained, the principle of heaven and earth bestowed Yi Qinghan the origin power twice. The first time was in Dripping Spring City. You should remember it, Dripping Spring City. I guess this time, the origin power bestowed will be more than the last time. After all, he has comprehended the profound mysteries of the principle of will. It's unprecedented. Little Han is the strangest genius in the history of the God realm. Li Quan also revealed an expression of as expected. Actually, when Yi Qinghan killed Paragon Flying Snow, he had already suspected that Yi Qinghan possessed origin energy. This was because the room where the divine thunder struck was the place where Yi Qinghan and Lei Jun lived. Lord Devour's words made their eyes brighten. The will was the thing that every venerable craved the most. Having it was the symbol of an invincible god of war. As Lord Devour said so, it meant that he had confirmed that the will could be comprehended. Duanfei asked anxiously, Sir, can will really be comprehended? What do you mean? Lord Devour glared at the three of them, then at Yi Qinghan, who was lying on the chair. The three of them instantly came to their senses and felt ashamed. Wasn't this a formidable person who had comprehended will? It was just that it was too inconceivable for the three of them to believe it. Lord Devour paused for a while, then continued, However, I guess except for little Han, no one in the divine world can comprehend the mysterious will, which is the eternal space. Lei Jun was bewildered, asking in astonishment, Why do you say that? Lord Devour sneered and said, The divine world has had so many geniuses for billions of years. Even the space venerable from 30 million years ago was a peerless genius. He became a god at 3, broke through to the god emperor realm at 20, and became a venerable in 100 years. What happened in the end? After millions of years of research, although he found the theory of the eternal space, didn't he die when his life ran out? Moreover, little Han dared to tell us this secret. He must know that besides him, no one else can comprehend this mysterious will. Everyone nodded in agreement. That was the logic behind it. Of course, they didn't know that the reason why Yi Qinghan could comprehend the eternal space was because his soul had mutated and he had 2 souls. Because of this, Yi Qinghan concluded that no one could comprehend the eternal space. Annie, is my big brother the invincible god of war now? Ha ha ha. The invincible god of war. Invincible in the world. Big brother is the big brother. Awesome. Xiaohe was jumping around the table. She was so happy. Seeing that no one was talking, she hurried to interrupt. Invincible in the world? He's still 108,000 miles away. Listening to Xiao He, Lord Devour's smile disappeared, and he became serious. Everybody on the dragon boat put on a serious face, looking at Lord Devour. After a while, she turned to Yi Qinghan and said, Yi Qinghan's competence is strange. Actually, he's a god emperor. Moreover, he has just entered the god emperor realm, but the origin energy in his body is more than the venerables who have cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years. Anyway, he's not a venerable because he can't teleport. As well, how do you describe it? He's a little stronger than a level 9 expert, but he's still a little weaker than the one with the lowest competence in the divine world, the one who has been living in seclusion. That's why his competence is strange. Of course, his comprehensive competence is at level 9. The lowest is level 9. Fireworks and the others didn't understand Lord Devour's words. Leijin didn't know anything, and only dripping spring river and swirling rain looked pensive. Lord Devour seemed to be in a good mood today. Seeing that everybody was confused, he explained, remember, a level 9 expert isn't really invincible. It's just that there aren't many level 9 experts. Compared to other warriors, they're invincible. Just like the God Realm and the Mortal Realm, the God Realm is invincible. Even if Yi Qinghan is a level 9 expert, as long as his divine crystal and soul are destroyed, he will die. Of course, it's the same for me. Venerables are divided into 3 levels: low, low, and peak. Similarly, level 9 experts are divided into different levels. A level 9 expert can kill a level 9 expert. Even a venerable can kill a level 9 expert with a sneak attack. Of course, it's extremely difficult. There's no such thing as invincible in this world. A level 9 expert has mastered the will, which is to say, a part of the power of space and heaven and earth. The amount of origin energy a venerable has mastered determines their strength. As for level 9, it depends on the amount of space power you have mastered. For example, a level 9 expert who has mastered the space power of a prefecture or a level 9 expert who has mastered the space power of a whole continent can crush you into powder with just a lift of his hand. Oh, so that's how it is? Everybody nodded as if they understood something. If Lord Devour didn't tell them, they would have never known this in their entire lives. Venerable Li Quan and the other 2 felt as if an even bigger door had been opened for them. Whether they could step in or not would depend on their own luck. Li Quan saw that Lord Devour was so patient to explain to them. He hesitated for a while before asking again, Lord, is there a higher realm above level 9? Yes, Lord Devour said faintly. Then he kept silent. They were satisfied that he could give them a definite answer. Indeed, it was useless to know their realm now. Not to mention the Viper War Gods group. Even Li Quan was the same. Lord Devour suddenly took out a messaging jade talisman to send a message. Then, he opened the protective cover of the small dragon boat. At the same time, he stood up as if he wanted to welcome someone. Everybody was stern. Who could make Lord Devour stand up to welcome him? Not long afterward, the space fluctuated. A white figure appeared in the sky, glancing at the unconscious Yi Qinghan. Then, he turned to Lord Devour and smiled faintly. Diawu, long time no see. Yao Ji, thank you for your hard work these years. Lord Devour beamed a smile one more time. Then he introduced her to the others. This is one of the Yao dancing concubines, the sole emperor's subordinates, Yao Ji. Greetings, Lord Devour. Everyone was stunned. Yao Ji's body was wrapped tightly in a thin veil, but her beautiful face and elegant temperament, as well as the seductive aura that emanated from her bones, not only did it cause Lei Jun, Viper, and the other men's hearts to race, it also caused Li Shui'er, Yin Ling, and Fireflower to feel ashamed. At the very least, Yao Ji's seductive womanly aura was something that they couldn't compare with. On the other hand, Yin Ling's eyes glowed once more. She was like a hungry wolf that had spotted its prey, and her pupils turned green. Chapter 9, 77. Supreme Island, Li Residence. Today, The group of guards was once again frightened by a black-robed man. The black-robed man was trembling all over as he ran towards the empty courtyard. He even crashed into a fake mountain as he ran. However, he acted as if he didn't hear it and continued to run towards the empty courtyard with his trembling body. Swish! Just as the guards were all feeling goosebumps in their hearts, not knowing what had happened, a black shadow flew in from the entrance of the Leaf family mansion. This black shadow's speed was even faster than the black shadow from earlier. As it flew, it shouted loudly, "My lord, something has happened! Something has happened!" All the guards froze. They knew the two black figures. One was the elder who guarded the soul jade slips, and the other was the elder from Supreme Island's intelligence department. Something happened. Swish! Countless experts of the Leaf family flew towards Leaf family's empty courtyard. The doyens guarding the soul jade slips were scared to such a state. It was definitely an important figure of the Leaf family that had died. Right now, there was one important figure of the Leaf family outside. Venerable Leaf Fae. And for the intelligence department's elder to come in such a hurry, it meant one thing. Something big happened in Star C. Or rather, Star C. Many people died. It didn't take long for the news to spread across the entire Leaf family. It spread across the entire Supreme Island too. Li Kong was enraged. The entire yard he lived in was instantly flattened. The 24 venerables of Supreme Island were enraged. The entire Supreme Island was in an uproar. More than 1 billion experts and over 30 venerables died in Star C, including Li Fei. So many people were slapped to death by one person. A puny martial artist who slapped Star C countless times not long ago was slapped to death by Yi Qing'an. This news was no less than someone dropping a bomb on Supreme Island. All the experts on Supreme Island felt their scalps go numb and their heads spin. More than 1 billion experts and over 30 venerables. Putting aside the billions of experts, the 30-odd martial supremacies were practically the majority of the martial supremacies in the Starry Sea outside the Supreme Island. There were over 60 venerables in the entire Star Sea, and almost half of them were on Supreme Island. Only a few of the remaining half were left. This was the heaviest blow to the Star Sea in hundreds of millions of years. Ever since the Star's Sovereign unified the Star Sea, such a terrible thing had never happened again. Along with this earth-shattering news, there was another unbelievable news. Yi Qing'an had reached level 9, and he had even comprehended a heaven-defying precept. Eternal space. The eternity of space was actually a will. Martial artists could comprehend willpower. Li Kong's body trembled slightly. His fat body trembled, and the fats on his body trembled. Dozens of supremacies stood beside him. They were all supremacies from the Sovereign Island. They did not dare to look at Li Kong as they lowered their heads to look at the ground and the ruins around them with gloomy expressions. There were still countless Leaf family disciples kneeling outside. They were all trembling along with their family head. It seemed that the wind today was especially cold. Countless supremacies knew that Li Kong wasn't trembling because of Li Fei's death. He was trembling in fear. Yes, he was afraid because of Yi Qing'an, because so many people had died. Let's go. Follow me to pay a visit to the Sovereign. After a while, Li Kong regained his composure and stopped trembling. He lifted his head and looked around. His gaze was as sharp as a knife, causing everyone to feel pain. Countless supremacies really did not want to get involved in this mess. Although they were usually eager to pay a visit to the Sovereign, they wanted to hide as far away as possible now. They were even secretly resentful towards Li Kong. Why should we follow you to bear the wrath of the Sovereign for the mistakes that your Leaf family has committed? But under supremacy Li Kong's knife-like gaze, no one dared to say a word of objection. Li Kong's prestige in the Star Sea was too high. At least no one dared to go against him now. More than 20 people teleported. When they reappeared, they were at the plaza of the Sovereign Island. There was a huge teleportation formation on the plaza. But this teleportation formation was very strange because there was no one guarding it. Li Kong and the rest walked into the teleportation formation. Then, Li Kong flipped his hand and 9 blood-red stones appeared. He inserted them into the 9 notches of the teleportation formation. There was a flash of white light, and everyone disappeared from the plaza. Everyone came to a cave that was surrounded by waves of fire. Below them was a piece of slowly moving magma, and smoke rose from time to time. There was a huge palace on top of the magma. This palace was actually floating on top of the magma. It floated along with the magma, but it did not sink. It was extremely mysterious. Everyone stood in midair and did not dare to go near the palace. Their eyes seemed to be filled with fear towards the moving magma. Li Kong has something important to ask of the sovereign. Please grant us an audience. Li Kong led everyone to kneel in midair. They did not kneel on one knee, but on both legs. They did not bow, but prostrated on all fours. Li Kong was at the front. His fat body was lying in the air with difficulty. It was very comical. It was quiet all around. The waves of fire were swallowing, and the magma was squirming. Strangely, there was no sound at all. The supremacies did not dare to get up. They floated in the air like dozens of huge worms. Wong! After a long time, the space above the palace fluctuated. An unparalleled aura rippled out from the palace and spread throughout the entire cave. Countless supremacies felt as though a huge mountain was pressing down on them. They felt a sense of suffocation and could not even lift their heads. A pair of huge eyes quietly condensed above the palace. The eye sockets were blood red, and the pupils were black and white. However, the pupils in the middle were like two bottomless abysses, with no end in sight. What's the matter? A faint voice rang out. There was no emotion in the voice, and it was not loud either. However, these few words seemed to strike the hearts of everyone present. The voice seemed to have an inexplicable power, causing everyone's hearts to ache. All the muscles in their bodies contracted, and cold sweat poured down, reporting to the sovereign. The floating continent has produced 2 ninth-grade martial artists recently. One of them killed Li Fei and 34 other supremacies, as well as one 3 billion-star army outside Seoul Emperor Island. The matter is like this. Li Kong is guilty. Sovereign, please punish him. Although Li Fei's heart was filled with endless fear, he could only brace himself and report the truth. Moreover, he didn't dare to conceal the truth. He recounted everything that had happened in the divine world, and also reported the matter of the Seoul Emperor Pavilion's 8th level being opened. The pair of huge eyes above the palace remained emotionless. After listening to Supremacy Li Kong's words, it became silent. The silence scared Li Kong and the supremacies. They were afraid that the Sovereign of Star would slap them in the next second, and everyone would be trapped in this cave forever. Got it? After a long time, the voice was heard. There was still no emotion, but everyone felt the pressure on their bodies getting stronger. When the voice was heard again, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Once the 9th floor of the Seoul Emperor Pavilion is opened, report to me immediately. Activate the Supreme Formation and seal the Supreme Island. Unless a 9th-grade martial artist attacks the Supreme Island, do not disturb me for anything else. Get out. When the last 3 words were spoken, a strong wind blew. Everyone felt a strong force acting on them. Everyone was like a kite with a broken string, rolling in the wind, unable to control themselves. When the wind finally stopped, everyone realized that they were already on the square. All the supremacies were lying on the ground like dogs eating **T, scaring the thousands of guards on the square. Li Kong did not care about his image being ruined. As long as he was alive, it was fine. He was glad that the Sovereign of Star did not pursue this matter. Instead, he paid attention to the 9th floor of the Seoul Emperor Pavilion. He immediately ordered the activation of the Supreme Formation to seal the Supreme Island. However, he was confused. What was in the 9th floor? Why was the Sovereign of Stars so concerned about it? Chapter 978. It didn't take long for news of the earth-shattering battle outside of Seoul Emperor Island to spread throughout the entire Divine Realm. It would be difficult for such an important matter to spread slowly. The entire Divine World was in an uproar. The previous time when Paragon Flying Snow died, Everyone in the divine realm was discussing about it. Supreme beings were supreme beings who could teleport and possessed an all-conquering source of power. They were almost immortal, but dozens of them had died this time. Killing more than 1 billion people with a single palm strike had made Yi Qinghan's reputation overshadow his level 9 strength. Murderous Demon King, a demon in human form, the demon monarch of the divine world. Countless titles hung over Yi Qinghan's head. In fact, the higher a person's realm was, the less they would kill a lower-level martial artist. It was too shameful. That was why there had never been a battle in the god realm where so many people had died. Of course, no one felt that Yi Qinghan was going overboard. After all, the strong preyed on the weak in the immortal world. When 10 billion people besieged Yi Qinghan, they had to be prepared to be killed instead. You want to kill others, but can others kill you? Even if Yi Qinghan had killed all 10 billion people, no one would have said anything. Of course, a large part of it was because he didn't dare. He was an invincible rank 9 powerhouse. Who dared to say anything about him? There was still a faint smell of blood in the air outside Seoul Emperor Island. The ethereal continent's prestige flourished, with 3 rank 9s on one continent. The 8 sovereigns of the divine world had now become the 10 sovereigns. The misty continent occupied 3 of them. It could be said that as long as the misty continent declared war on another continent, the 3 great 9th grade martial artists would be able to easily wipe out all the martial artists who dared to resist. No one could stop him. The title of the number 1 force in the divine realm of the star sea immediately shifted to the misty continent. Didn't you see that he killed more than 1 billion people in the star sea, and the sovereign of stars didn't even fart? There was something even more sensational, and that was the profound mystery that Yi Qinghan had comprehended: space eternity. After this matter spread out, countless spatial law powerhouses went crazy. Countless low-level martial artists began to turn their heads to comprehend the law of space. The law of little ribs had suddenly become a delicious piece of cake. The laws of heaven and earth bestowed wills, and they had to comprehend the ultimate mysteries. Ultimate profound mysteries were the fusion of 5 basic profound mysteries, the highest realm one could reach when comprehending the laws. This was incomparably difficult, perhaps even impossible. There had been countless geniuses, and eccentrics in the god world for billions of years. But in the end, only a few 9th grade profound mysteries appeared. It could be seen that successfully comprehending this ultimate profound mystery was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But things were different now. As long as one could comprehend a high-level profound mystery, eternal space, they would immediately possess a will of will. They would be able to reach the peak of martial artists, an invincible existence. High-level profound mysteries were hard to comprehend, but compared to ultimate profound mysteries, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. Which god emperor didn't comprehend 2 or 3 high-level profound mysteries? For a time, countless people made up their minds and went into seclusion. He swore that he would not come out of seclusion until he comprehended the eternity of space and reached rank 9. Of course, there were also countless people who were worried. If countless martial artists were to comprehend the eternity of space and become an invincible rank 9, the divine world would definitely be in chaos. There were only 6 continents and 1 star sea in the immortal realm. With so many sovereigns, how were they going to divide up the forces? Many people had actually heard of a rumor that the reason why the hidden sovereign went into seclusion was because he went into an arcane realm. It was because he was the weakest among the sovereigns. The divine world did not have any territory for him, and he dared not snatch it. In the end, he could only go to an arcane realm with his tail between his legs and declare himself king. Once there were more rank 9s, the divine world forces would definitely divide up the forces again. The divine world would definitely be in chaos, and there might even be an apocalyptic war. Therefore, countless people were worried. Among those who were worried were the sovereigns of the other 5 continents. The 5 sovereigns did not hesitate. They came out of seclusion almost at the same time, and then all left their respective continents, rushing toward the ethereal mainland. The divine world suddenly became unusually lively. Everyone was anxious. The name Yi Qinghan had also become the most discussed word in the entire divine world. Yi Qinghan did not know about the chaotic situation in the divine world. He only knew that the martial artists of the ethereal mainland had gone crazy. Coming out of the small dragon boat and standing on the sea outside the divine martial city, Yi Qinghan was frightened by the black mass of people in front of him. There were 10 billion star soldiers outside the Soul Emperor Island. It was a magnificent scene, but compared to the figures in front of him, it was still a little lacking. Oh my! There were tens of billions of people here, on the ground, in the air, and on the sea. There were people everywhere. They were orderly, layer after layer, circle after circle, with no end in sight. It was impossible to count how many people there were. Welcome home, frigid night's sovereign. Welcome home, frigid night's sovereign. Welcome home, frigid night's sovereign. Suddenly, everyone knelt on one knee in front of Yi Qinghan at the same time. With one hand on their chest, they bowed and lowered their heads, shouting excitedly. They bowed 3 times and shouted the same 3 times. The sound was earth-shattering, piercing through the sky. The blood-red seawater on the sea, under this earth-shattering shout, set off huge waves. Countless seabirds flew up from all directions. Even in the distant sea, countless demon beasts in the sea were frightened and fled in panic. Tens of billions of martial artists of the misty continent, organized and spontaneous. Hearing that Yi Qinghan had returned to the misty continent from the divine martial city today, they all rushed over. In the distance, there were still flashes of white light in the divine martial city. Obviously, there were still countless martial artists rushing over. At the forefront were Venerable Moonchaser, Venerable Fragrance, and countless venerables of the misty continent. Obviously, this was an order from the misty continent sovereign to give the highest standard of welcome. They were all here to welcome frigid night sovereign, to welcome the pride of the misty continent home. When Yi Qinghan roared in the Star Sea and swore to fight against the entire Star Sea alone, Yi Qinghan became the pride of the young generation of the misty continent. But today, he became the pride of the entire continent. With my blood, I declare to the world that if His Highness does not die, or if he does not collect 100-fold debt of blood, he will never return. How heroic was this oath? How arrogant was this oath? How arrogant was this oath? Never return. A single person, a mere divine king, declared war against the largest faction in the divine realm and wanted to kill their highness, wanted to fight against 10 billion experts. No matter what the final result was, to be able to say such a sentence, to be able to do such a crazy action, was worthy of admiration and pride. But not only did Yi Qinghan dare to say it, but he also dared to do it. And he did it. He killed billions of martial artists in the Star Sea. He killed Li Tian, he killed Li Fei, and he killed dozens of venerables. Today, he could finally return to the imperial court, finally home. The pride of the misty continent was home. Did you say that the martial artists of the continent, the citizens of the continent, and the citizens did not come to welcome him? Yi Qinghan did not speak. He stared blankly at the dense crowd around him, at the distant divine martial city, smelled the familiar air, looked at the countless familiar faces below, and fell silent. Back then, this was where he set out to see. With 50 demonic beasts and 50 soul slaves, he set out for the Star Sea. Then he fought in the Star Sea. Countless times he saw the misty continent, and countless times he wanted to go home. But he only took a deep look and then resolutely disappeared again, diving into the surging blood-red seawater. The millions of citizens of the Flame Dragon City, Mount Wu, the Wind Emperor, and countless others had died. It was like a sharp sword hanging above his sea of soul. He could not breathe, and he could not smile brightly. Between life and death, his wife, children, friends, subordinates, and the citizens of the Flame Dragon continent made him feel like a huge mountain was pressing down on him, pressing on his thin shoulders, almost crushing him. Today he finally won. He could finally go home with dignity, and he could finally have the face to pay respects to the millions of citizens who had died because of him. He could finally smile brightly. The feeling of relief was so good. Yi Qinghan smiled, like a flower blooming at the foot of Mount Luotian, incomparably brilliant. His entire body relaxed. Ever since he came to this world, he had always been fighting and fighting for himself, for his loved ones, and for his fate. He had almost never relaxed. He had always wanted to live a peaceful life, but he could not. Until today, he finally knew that he could live a peaceful life. Chapter 979. Little Han, I'm going back to the Soul Devourer city. Jita gave you the title of Frigid Night Sovereign. Don't reject it. You should arrange your things first. After you're done, come to the Soul Devourer city to see me. A faint voice interrupted Yi Qinghan's contemplation. His soul consciousness scanned and found that Lord Devour had teleported away with Lord Jiao. The small dragon boat had also disappeared. Lei Zhun, Li Quan, and the others were floating behind him. They were also frightened by the billions of people in front of them. Xiao He flashed and stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. He held his head high, his face proud as if he was afraid that people wouldn't know that he was Yi Qinghan's war beast. Fireworks' beautiful eyes sparkled. She held Yao Ji's hand, looking at Yi Qinghan's back with an infatuated look. Yinling Air was holding Yao Ji's hand on the other side, smiling faintly at Yao Ji. The three of them were all masked with silk scarves, concealing their peerless beauty. However, just their slim and graceful figures were enough to captivate one's soul. Everybody, stand up. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, smiling tenderly. His voice wasn't loud, but it echoed in the ears of every warrior of the Misty Continent. Billions of people felt like they were bathing in the spring breeze. They all wore happy and worshipping faces, standing up and looking at the blue figure standing proudly in the sky. That figure wasn't tall, but in people's eyes, it was so tall and majestic. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly again. He didn't say anything, taking people to fly into the divine martial city. The warriors in the sky automatically moved to the sides, making a wide path. Lei Zhun stayed, smiling at people. Everybody, Frigid Night Sovereign has just returned to the continent. He has many things to deal with. Later, you can visit Flame Dragon City as a guest. Everyone in Flame Dragon City, listen to my order. Return to the city. Countless figures soared into the sky and lined up neatly behind Lei Zhun. They followed Lei Zhun in high spirits and chased after Yi Qinghan. Farewell, Frosty Night Sovereign. When Yi Qinghan flew into the divine martial city and walked into the teleportation array, billions of people knelt down on one knee again and shouted in unison as they watched Yi Qinghan leave. Yi Qinghan turned around and waved at the crowd, once again thanking them for their hospitality. The entire divine martial city erupted in thunderous cheers. After Yi Qinghan and the others turned into a beam of white light and disappeared, the cheers continued for a long time, shaking the entire field. When Yi Qinghan teleported to Myriad Waters City, he was once again welcomed and cheered by countless people. This time, Yi Qinghan didn't stay for too long. He just waved his hand indifferently and directly entered the Flame Dragon City's teleportation formation. Standing in Flame Dragon City's plaza, Yi Qinghan looked at the familiar city. Looking at the even more beautiful city, he couldn't help but feel like he was dreaming. How many years has it been? He had finally returned to this city, the city that belonged to him. Welcome back, City Lord. The martial artists who stayed behind in Flame Dragon City didn't call him Frosty Night Sovereign like the martial artists in Divine Martial City. Instead, they called him City Lord. This time, Yi Qinghan's smile was even brighter. Looking at the demonic emperor's furry face, he felt so close and warm. Swish! A moment later, Lei Zhun and the Flame Dragon City citizens who went to Myriad Waters Manor to welcome Yi Qinghan had all returned. However, the teleportation array didn't stop. All the teleportation arrays on the plaza lit up, and countless martial artists were teleported to Flame Dragon City. Countless manor heads stood on the plaza with smiles on their faces and bowed to Yi Qinghan. "Uncle Leijun, where are the millions of people buried? I want to pay my respects to them." Yi Qinghan ignored those manor heads and spoke to Leijun indifferently. All the martial artists in the city shuddered. They didn't expect that the first thing Yi Qinghan did after returning was to pay his respects to the souls of the dead. "City Lord, this way, please." After returning to Flame Dragon City, Leijun became more courteous. No matter what, Yi Qinghan was the city lord of Flame Dragon City. Moreover, he had already reached such a high cultivation realm. If he called him Little Han in public, that would be disrespectful. Yi Qinghan followed Leijun out of the city. Yao Ji, Hua Yin, Li Quan, and the others followed closely behind. The venerables of the floating mist mainland who had rushed over all followed behind silently. The rest of the martial artists followed behind Yi Qinghan silently as they walked out of the city. Yi Qinghan walked. No one dared to fly. Outside the gates of Flame Dragon City was an incomparably wide plaza. At the end of the plaza, there was a tall stone monument. Beneath the monument, there were millions of corpses and heroic souls buried. Yi Qinghan walked at the front. He knelt down on both knees and kowtowed. When Yi Qinghan knelt down, it scared the countless people behind him. Pung pung! Everyone in the plaza knelt down. Even Yi Qinghan had knelt down. How could they still dare to stand? Yi Qinghan kowtowed 3 times respectfully. He silently swore in his heart that he would definitely take Li Kong's head to avenge the deaths of everyone. Whether it was for the millions of heroic souls below, or for Xiaohe, or for the Soul Emperor, Li Kong had to die. After paying his respects, Yi Qinghan let Leijun and Li Quan entertain the distinguished guests. Venerable Windchaser and the others represented the floating mist sovereign, so they couldn't slack off. Leijun had already sent a message back. Immediately, countless square tables were set up in the plaza within the city and outside the city. Countless spiritual liquids, wine, and fruits were served. As long as they were in Flame Dragon City, they could enjoy to their heart's content. Ling Er, are Qing Qing and the others still in the Lily Cave Mansion? Yi Qinghan immediately asked Yin Ling Er as he brought Yao Ji and Yin Ling Er into the 5th floor of the City Lord's mansion. However, his expression was a little awkward. He touched his nose in embarrassment and was a little nervous. Pfft. Yin Ling Er looked at Yi Qinghan's expression, and all her anger dissipated. The frigid Night Sovereign, who stood above millions of people, was actually a little afraid of her. She felt a little proud and smiled. "When I left the Lily Cave Mansion, I told them to go back first. Safety first." Yi Qinghan looked at Yin Ling Er gratefully and then smiled at Fireworks. "Fireworks, make arrangements for Yao Ji, Ling Er, and Shui Er to stay. I'll go back to the Flame Dragon Continent first. Xiaohe is leaving." Fireworks nodded with joy in her eyes. Yi Qinghan was treating her as one of his own. Of course, she and Yin Ling Er were a little jealous. As soon as Yi Qinghan returned, he went to pick up Qing Qing and the others. But after thinking about it, the two felt relieved. Yi Qinghan was such a loyal person. Wasn't this his strong point? If Yi Qinghan was a cold-blooded person, would they like him? After giving the unfettered ring to Qing Qing, Yi Qinghan could only helplessly leave with Xiaohe through the teleportation formation. But this time, Yi Qinghan covered his face. He didn't want to be surrounded by people wherever he teleported. Exclamations. After teleporting to the Misty City, they used the special teleportation formation to teleport to the Flame Dragon Continent. When Yi Qinghan once again stood in the sky above the Flame Dragon Continent, when Yi Qinghan smelled the familiar air, all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. This time, no one would be able to pose a threat to him, to his family, or to the Flame Dragon Continent, right? Swoosh! The space around him fluctuated continuously. Countless God-rank experts teleported over. Qing'an, Fathers, Little Han, Frost Emperor, Xiaohe, Lord Xiaohe. Countless familiar faces appeared by Yi Qinghan's side, looking at Yi Qinghan with faces full of excitement. This was their backbone, their pillar of support, their king. "Hello, everyone." The smile on Yi Qinghan's face was intoxicating. Even he himself was intoxicated. He loved this feeling the most. This feeling where everyone was happy. He looked at Yu Qingcheng, Yi Qingwu, Yi Yaorao, Yi Sahan, and Peach Blossom. He looked at everyone and said with a smile, I am back to take you to the divine realm. From now on, no one can stop us from reuniting. No one will be able to threaten you anymore. As the Frost Emperor, I promise you. Chapter 980. Frigid Night Sovereign? Everyone was confused. Yu Qingcheng, Peach Blossom, and the others weren't country bumpkins. How long had they lived in the divine realm? They had heard of the title sovereign, but didn't it refer to the 8 supreme existences of the divine realm? Lord Devour had also reached the sovereign level, but how could Yi Qinghan guarantee them as a sovereign? Since when was there a Frigid Night sovereign? Wait a minute. Yu Qingcheng raised her eyebrows as she recalled something. Wasn't Yi Qinghan called Frigid Night War God? Frigid Night War God. Frigid Night Sovereign? Could it be? Yu Qingcheng's pair of beautiful eyes suddenly looked towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded his head. Yu Qingcheng's entire face flushed red. Her beauty was indescribable. Qinghan? How could it be? Yu Qingcheng exclaimed, then covered her mouth. If it wasn't Yi Qinghan who said it, she wouldn't believe it even if she was beaten to death. Yi Qinghan smiled leisurely and happily said, Why not? What's impossible about your man? Yu Qingcheng was even more excited, but the others were still confused. Yi Yaorao looked pensive. Yi Qingyu was the most direct. She looked at Yu Qingcheng in confusion and said, Sister Qingcheng, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Qinghan said he has become the Frigid Night Sovereign. In other words, his strength has reached the 9th grade. Yi Qingyu blinked, then suddenly opened her eyes wide. At the same time, the others also opened their eyes wide, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. This joke was too big. Don't be so surprised. You will know in the future. If the warriors of the continent want to go to the divine realm, they can go at any time. On the Ascension platform, it means you are from the Fire Dragon continent. They will send you to the Fire Dragon City immediately. Yi Qinghan was in a good mood. He kept smiling. So many years of struggle, dancing on the edge of a knife, running with the Grim Reaper. Wasn't it all for today? Now that he had the ability to protect them and give them the best life, what other reason could there be for him to be unhappy? Xiaohei stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said proudly, Boss's sovereign status was personally bestowed by the Misty Sovereign. When Boss returned to the Misty Continent, tens of billions of experts from the Divine Martial City came to welcome him. Father, have you reached level 9? Everyone was stunned because they had absolute trust in Yi Qinghan. They knew that he never boasted or lied, and Xiaohei also never lied. But Peach Blossom still couldn't believe it. Her father was a venerable. She knew very well how difficult it was for a warrior to reach level 7 or venerable, let alone the supreme existence, a level 9 invincible war god. That's right. Peach Blossom, I think this time your father will not object to you and Sahan being together. Yi Qinghan answered very seriously. He knew that it was hard for her to believe it, and he didn't want to explain, so he said with a smile, This time I am here to take you to the divine realm. You will all know when you get there. Father, you have become a sovereign, a level 9 invincible war god? Yi Sahan blinked, still not believing it. Okay, I will go with you to the divine realm. Peach Blossom's eyes lit up. Although she had a comfortable life with Yi Sahan in the Fire Dragon continent, she had grown up in the divine realm, so it was comfortable to live in the divine realm. Although she hated the Peach Blossom Venerable very much, he was still her father. It would be best if they could reconcile. Yi Qingwu immediately shouted, Go to the divine realm. Go to the divine realm. I also want to go to the divine realm. Yu Qingcheng and Yi Yaorao looked at each other, their eyes full of desire. In the divine realm, their cultivation speed was very fast, but in the Fire Dragon continent, it was too slow. The two of them wanted to go to the divine realm. Let's go. Grandpa Green Cow, Grandpa White Tiger, let's go to the divine realm together. Anyway, you can come back whenever you want in the future. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and made his decision. Yi Tianlong also didn't hesitate. They also wanted to go to the divine realm to confirm what Yi Qinghan said. Although they believed it, they still didn't dare to confirm it, because this was too ridiculous. Yi Qinghan's divine sense swept out. He originally wanted to visit the rabbit in the dark castle, but when his divine sense swept out, the rabbit sent him a voice transmission immediately. It said that it was preparing to go into seclusion, and that it would talk later. Yi Qinghan was slightly stunned. This rabbit was too awesome. He didn't even say anything, and she rejected him directly? And it seemed like he couldn't find out her strength now. It seemed like he had to ask Lord Devour about this. Yi Tianlong sent a message to Yi Chong, telling him something. Then, Yi Qinghan brought his team to the Purple Island. This time, besides Yi Qinghan's family, some God Realm warriors of the continent also wanted to go to the Divine Realm to see the legendary Divine Realm. Of course, Yi Qinghan didn't mind. They entered the Purple Island directly. Yi Qinghan did it himself. They got into the teleportation formation and were teleported to the Ascension platform. Everybody, stand on the left. On the Ascension platform, the two Peak of King God Realm guards were still wearing silver robes and hair. When they saw people teleporting from the material plane, they scanned the area and said instinctively. However, before he could finish his words, his eyes opened wide. He crawled up, kneeling on the ground. His body shivered as he said fearfully, "Greetings, greetings, Lord Han Yi. My lord, please forgive me." The other guard had already woken up. He also kneeled on the ground, not daring to breathe loudly. Many warriors of the material planes stood on the left side of the Ascension platform. When they saw the two guards kneeling, they also knelt in fright. Yu Qingcheng and the others' eyes brightened. The guards of the Ascension platform had a special position. Although they were only at the peak of King God Realm, they didn't even pay attention to a 5th or 6th grade war god. When Lord Jiao took out the token of the Misty Mountain Lord, the two guards only kneeled on one knee. But now, get up. From now on, the people who ascended from the Flame Dragon plane will be teleported directly to the Flame Dragon City. Activate the teleportation formation. Of course, Yi Qinghan wouldn't argue with these two nobodies. Although he and Xiaohe had been scolded by these two when they ascended that year, they were still the same. At this moment, Xiaohe wanted to teach them a lesson. However, when he heard Yi Qinghan's words, he didn't say anything. He knew his boss's identity was different now. If this matter was spread out, it wouldn't be good for his reputation. Everyone walked into the huge teleportation formation on the right side. The two guards quickly teleported and disappeared from the Ascension platform with a flash of white light. Big brother, do you think we should be more polite to the warriors who ascended? The Frigid Knight's sovereign ascended less than 100 years ago. But when he ascended, we don't even know if we scolded him or not. If the next time a genius ascends, we teach him a lesson, and he breaks through to the high-level God Emperor Venerable after 100 years, and comes looking for trouble with us, we'll be finished. Once Yi Qinghan left, the two silver-robed men hurriedly gathered together and discussed. Yi Qinghan's sudden rise made them feel afraid. The other giant man also nodded. The two of them had special identities. Perhaps a 5th or 6th grade war god wouldn't do anything to them. However, not to mention Yi Qinghan, any venerable could easily kill the two of them. The God Realm warriors who had just ascended were sweating profusely when they heard the two men's discussion. Ascended less than 100 years ago? How could he be so awesome? Although they didn't know what realm the Frigid Knight Sovereign represented, he could order the guards to teleport people who ascended from a plane to a city with just a few words. How awesome was that? The dozens of warriors who had just ascended were instantly excited. Their hearts were filled with ambition, and they fantasized about being like that lord, cultivating diligently for 100 years, and finally becoming an overlord in the God realm. At that time, they could also come to the Ascension platform and let these two people directly teleport the warriors who ascended from their continent to their own city. Chapter 981. It was only after arriving at Flame Dragon City that everyone was completely convinced of this extremely absurd fact. When countless venerables and millions of martial artists knelt down on one knee and paid their respects to Frost Knight Sovereign, Yu Qingcheng and the others' eyes became slightly moist. They knew that after today, the Flame Dragon Continent would be completely safe and no one would be able to separate them. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan's frail body and became incomparably proud. Yi Tianlong's old eyes were filled with tears. This was the seventh brother that was forgotten by the Yi family, the seventh brother that almost died because of his negligence, the seventh brother that couldn't even summon a battle beast. Not only did he stand at the peak of the Flame Dragon Continent, but also the peak of the Divine Realm. Yi Qing didn't have too much time to care about everyone's feelings. He had a lot of things to do. Let fireworks settle down Qingcheng and the others. As for the relationship between the women, he would deal with it himself. If he dealt with this troublesome matter by himself, he would definitely be met with countless disdainful and resentful gazes. Ignoring them, just like what happened to Yi Yao Rao last time, everyone quickly blended together. Flame Dragon City's matters were all left to Lei Jun to deal with. He called for a doyen. Although Flame Dragon City was destroyed, under the protection of Lei Jun's Thunder God, all the doyen did not die. The only exception was Wu Shan and Feng Qi, who died in the Star Sea. Wu Shan was killed by venerable flying snow, and Feng Qi was killed by Xiaoyu. Although he avenged them in the end, Xiaoyu should have been killed outside Seoul Emperor Island. But Yi Qinghan still felt guilty, and was even more determined to find a way to kill Li Kong. This doyen came from Seal God Valley, and was a doyen of Flame Dragon City. He was originally Lei Jun's subordinate, and his name was Wu Tian. His strength was not high, only at the peak of 6th grade war god. Wu Tian didn't know why Yi Qinghan called him over alone, and he was a little perturbed. The current Yi Qinghan was not the same as before. His 6th grade strength was no different from a god in Yi Qinghan's eyes. Could it be that Yi Qinghan wanted to remove him from his position as an elder? If Yi Qinghan were to issue an order, not to mention a war god at the peak of 7th grade, even a venerable would fight over the position of a senior elder of Flame Dragon City. Wu Tian brings some people to the Starry Sea. This is the map. Go there. Yi Qinghan took out a map and placed it on the table. Then he pointed at a location in the South Star Sea. Seeing that Wu Tian was very puzzled, he explained, tens of thousands of li below this position sea, there is a mysterious spirit cave mansion. There are more than a dozen demonic beasts inside, as well as more than a dozen martial artists that I brought with me back then. Take my token and bring them back. Yes, City Lord. I will bring them back as soon as possible. Wu Tian hurriedly responded, but in his heart, he was very glad. It seemed that Yi Qinghan was a very nostalgic person. Although he had become a monarch, as long as he and the others did not make any mistakes, his position as a senior elder would not be removed. Yi Qinghan nodded and let Wu Tian go. In fact, there was still one more thing in the Starry Sea that was waiting for Yi Qinghan to do. That was to go to the Flame Dragon Island next to Seoul Emperor Island to look for the Night Emperor and the others. The Night Emperor and some of the seniors of the Flame Dragon Continent were probably not very strong. However, they were the ancestors of the Flame Dragon Continent. This matter was originally one of the reasons why Yi Qinghan went to the Starry Sea. He did not expect that so many things would be involved. After the battle on Seoul Emperor Island, Yi Qinghan was in a coma for a long time. When he woke up, he was almost at the ethereal continent, so he did not go back to look for them. Originally, Yi Qinghan could have sent Yi Tianlong and the others to look for them. Yi Tianlong was his grandfather, so it was not impolite. However, Yi Qinghan felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, he had been in the Starry Sea for so long. Although the Flame Dragon Island was remote, it was impossible that no one had heard of it, right? He had built the Flame Dragon City, and the information was easy to find. He had ascended from the Flame Dragon Continent. When the Night Emperor and the others heard this news, they would definitely take the initiative to look for him, right? However, there was no news of them now, so Yi Qinghan was a little worried. After thinking for a while, He decided to look for them after this matter was settled. No matter what, they were his ancestors. After sorting out the matter of the Night Emperor and the others, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged in the hall and began to check his body. Lord Devour said that his overall strength had barely reached rank 9, but he had not had time to check his body and straighten out his strength and realm. My soul and nomological order have reached the Emperor God realm. Now, excluding the power of origin and willpower, my strength should have reached rank 7. Was this what power was? It's really amazing. Yi Qinghan looked inside the divine crystal and found that there was a kind of translucent white light around the divine crystal. This was power. It could radiate with his divine power, and it could produce pressure on martial artists below the Emperor God realm. However, it was obvious that he had just broken through to the Emperor God realm, so the power was not strong. All right, the power of origin. Outside the Soul Emperor Island, the heaven and earth law seemed to have bestowed me with the power of origin again. Yi Qinghan suddenly remembered and quickly looked inside his soul. He would not have known if he did not look, but when he did, he was shocked. Originally, the power of origin was only floating on the bridge between his two souls. Now, it was all floating above the soul sea. It was like a floating cloud, and its volume was at least 3 times bigger than before. It seemed that this time, the heaven and earth law had bestowed him with double the power of origin. With a thought, Yi Qinghan directed the power of origin to be released. This time, there was no resistance. It instantly appeared in his palm, and with another thought, the power of origin instantly enveloped his body. However, once a protective shield was formed on the surface of his body, there was no extra power of origin to attack. Yi Qinghan fooled around for a while, feeling that it was very fun. Finally, he thought of willpower, but he could not figure it out. Rather than saying willpower, he felt that it was better to say space eternity. For him, willpower was just releasing space eternity and then absorbing the nearby power of space. He relied on this power of space to suppress his enemies. He could not understand willpower at all, so Yi Qinghan could only ask Lord Devour later. He began to look inside the divine crystal. Now that he had reached this level of strength, he should be able to open the second seal in the divine crystal, right? He covered the black stone with his divine power, but what shocked Yi Qinghan the most was that the second seal on the black stone did not move at all. Yi Qinghan did not believe it, so he covered it with the power of origin again. The result shocked him even more. The power of origin could not get close to the black stone. F***, this is really strange. Yi Qinghan was frightened. At this moment, his overall strength had reached grade 9, which meant that he had reached the peak of the divine realm. He did not expect that he could not even open the second seal. What was this black stone? Was the Battle Emperor messing with him? Just as Yi Qinghan was puzzled, a familiar voice rang in his ears. It was the Battle Emperor's voice, which made Yi Qinghan shudder. Kid, don't waste your energy. Although your overall strength is not bad, your comprehension of the law is very low. According to the words of this divine realm, the second seal of this thing can only be opened when your comprehension of the law reaches the level of a venerable. As for the third seal, you need to comprehend an ultimate mystery to open it. Work hard, kid. Your progress is not bad. This emperor is looking forward to meeting you again. After the Battle Emperor said that, he became completely silent. The meaning of this paragraph seemed very simple, but it contained a very profound and complex meaning. What did it mean according to the words of this divine realm? Could it be that there were many divine realm planes? To open the third seal, one needed to comprehend an ultimate mystery? The meaning was very clear. One had to rely on the comprehension of the law and reach the real grade 9 to open it. This sentence had the most meaning. Yi Qinghan felt that the ultimate mystery was like carrots and cabbages to the Battle Emperor. One had to comprehend one. Could it be that he could comprehend two? It seemed like a grade 9 was nothing to the Battle Emperor. The Battle Emperor's words made Yi Qinghan confused, but no matter how he called out, the Battle Emperor did not speak again. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, then stood up and said to Xiaohei, who was resting with his eyes closed, "Let's go, Xiaohei. Let's go to Soul Eater City to find your aunt." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.